Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey guys, welcome to GeekyKOOL Presents episode 27. And well, hey Shpoo, that's gonna look like you. There we go. So we're very excited. Halloween is around the corner. It's on Saturday, and with 2020 the way it is, you know, the celebrations are probably more limited than they would normally be. But we wanted to celebrate by talking about our favorite horror movies. Last week we talked about monster movies and had a good time talking about monster movies. Today we're going to talk about full-on horror movies and our top fives. We are glad to be here with you guys. I've got Ace down there, over there, over wherever. I don't know, wherever it is. Down over there. I know I can see her. But we also have some great guests with us today to talk about their favorite horror movies. We have Keith Moncrief of Popculture Minefield and Titans of the Fantastic. Mr. I'm going to break these stories that are going to break the internet is right here with us today. We are proud to have you, Keith. We love you, buddy. We're glad when you come on.
I don't know about this breaking the internet thing, but I am very honored to be here.
And like I said on Facebook, the amazing Keith Moncrief. Next to him, we have Brittney Greer, the award-winning director, the starring leading lady of a horror web series, also the director of another web series, and the director of a new, hopefully a new movie coming out that we've got the trailer for. We're going to show you guys. And, of course, down below, we have the Skallywag himself, the guy who loves his horror so much he has a collection of horror stuff right behind him.
I mean,
welcome, Shpoo.
He has a very very
good
girlfriend. Just
trying to pick top 5 horror films. Like when it comes to horror, there's like so many subcategories.
Yes,
there's like
that was
thriller,
so
slasher, paranormal, supernatural. So just coming up with 5 general horror movies was very hard.
Yeah,
it'd be way easier to separate.
It would.
Yeah.
And do like.
He said 5 slashers. I'm like, good, got it. 5 thrillers, got it. 5 paranormal, got it. 5 horror.
What?
Where to start?
So I can handle the thrillers, and we did monster movies last week, which are one of my favorites. Right. Now we have below, we've got Ace down here. Now go ahead, Ace. Tell us what's going on.
So no, I was just going along with what Shpoo was saying. Like, it's so difficult. We say this every week when we do our like top 5 things. It's so difficult for us to narrow it down, being huge fans the way we are of movies and stuff. This week was difficult for me because there are movies that are listed in horror that I consider more thriller or psychological, and I'm not sure they fit in my mind in horror. One of them did make my list just because I love the movie so much. But no, it was very difficult to try to weed our way through. And plus, you know, you have almost 100 years of movies to weed your way through to get 5. So that's very difficult.
It is. So. Well, and I actually left off mine because I figured it was more of a thriller than horror. So
yeah, I know which one's yours.
There's one on my list that I'm not sure. Like if you like brought it down to the bare essentials of horror, I don't know would actually be considered that, but it's a very gory movie, and therefore it's included on my list. I think it's like number 4. But
one of mine's not technically horror.
Right?
Yeah.
One of mine's not technically horror either, but it's still on my list.
It's like like I said to AJ earlier, you know, if you really want to get down to it, I mean, the Addams Family is technically horror. So, I mean,
see, and it's like subgenres. That's why subgenres would be way easier.
It is a very broad. Oh yeah, we'd have to start like in April, breaking the subgenres.
I'm okay with that.
We could.
Like, I'm okay with that.
Brittney will talk after.
I can see we've
I'm
got a
fine
new
with
series
it.
coming to you guys. GeekyKOOL presents Breaking Down Horror Genres.
There
All
you
right.
go.
So
It's just me and Brittney.
so before we get
talking horror just once a week.
Yeah.
you two guys are definitely top experts on that. So yeah, I'm with you. So
It's
so I
so
want
hard.
to
I have like
Oh my gosh, the ones that didn't quite make it.
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like they should.
I know. It's so difficult.
No, I understand, guys. I had a couple that I kind of moved off my list. Now I'm not as big of a fan as you guys. I'll just admit it. I'm a thriller
He's not a
guy.
horror
I
fan.
love my thriller guy. I'm not a slasher film guy. Certain types of subgenres of horror I like, but anyway. So let's get into this, so we don't spend all of our time, because I know anytime I've got Keith and Brittney with me, we can spend 3 hours. And so let's not do that tonight. I always love you guys that way, and I'd love to do more Titans of the Fantastic.
Heck yeah.
So let's get started. I got some things I want to show people that may not be as familiar with Brittney as the rest of us are. So those of you watching, check this out. These are some pretty cool stuff. This is the trailer for Strange Happenings, directed by our Brittney here.
Oh goodness. Hey, it's Hannah. Am I not supposed to talk?
No, go ahead. You can talk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's David Fielding. He's from Power Rangers. I'm a huge Power Rangers fan, so it was kind of insane. Yeah, to have him on set. He's so nice and talented.
You filmed
Bigfoot and
you shot part of this up at Dungeons of Doom, didn't you? Up in Springfield?
we did, yeah. They let us shoot in there. It was so nice. But yeah, he got to like do a promo in front of like the dragon head. So he did like a promo for him, and like we shared it or whatever.
I got there. I worked there for like 22 years. Well, Hotel Terra anyway, for about 22 years. I actually got there about 10 minutes after you guys left.
Really?
He called me. He's like, "You'll never believe who's here right now."
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and we had someone.
Brittney was there.
Yeah, we had someone like crash set. Like I've never had that happen before. So I felt like kind of cool. Like somebody posted that we were there.
It's true. I was just there to see you. I admit it. Okay, I was just there to see you.
But yeah, he was a huge Fielding fan, and like he came and was like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" Or like an autograph, and like Fielding came down and like talked to him. So I was just like, weird. We have to stop set because a fan's here. It was kind of cool. I'm sure he was like, oh man, like we have to stop set. But we're like, guys.
We have to stop set.
Yeah, there's a fan downstairs. It was cool.
Well, before too long, they're going to be crashing all of your sets there, Brittney. That's just what people are going to start doing.
Oh goodness. That'd be cool. But.
Yeah. It's going to start happening. So here's another one I want to show us. This goes back a few years. Brittney's starring role here.
Oh yeah. This is thin young Brittney. Yeah, and we shot in Casper's. We got to shoot in Casper's, and we shot at the Vandevort before they turned it into the Vandevort. Like we got to shoot in the theater. So that was cool. We were like the last thing that happened in there before they shut down, which was kind of crazy. But yeah, that's me. I'm not a very good actor.
Yes, you are.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I got blood sprayed in my face. So that was a good time.
I do that in photo shoots. I love
that. It's so much fun. And Kevin Kepi, like he's like this crazy clown.
Oh, he's a ham.
Yeah, clowns are kind of scary, and I didn't have contacts, so he swung a knife at my face and I couldn't see. So I was like, this is scary. Don't cut my face.
Couldn't even show us, but I got my contacts in tonight.
He does. He's like,
you do. I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
He's really, really dark brown eyes that almost look black. So those are
awesome.
One of them.
These are the Lestats, actually.
Yeah.
So
nice.
So set up this next trailer we're going to show. Set up this next trailer for us, Brittney.
So Happy Halloween is because I happen to love slasher movies and Halloween. It's a slasher movie that it's been probably 10 to 12 years I've written on it. And Shannon was like, hey, we should shoot a proof of concept trailer and try to get funding for it to make the feature. So that's what this is. It's we did a trailer. A lot of people think it's finished. It is not finished. We just shot a trailer essentially to go with our pitch package that we've been sending out to try to get funding. And if we can't get like a producer, like an executive producer on board, we have been thinking about possibly doing like a crowdfunding type situation. Yeah, we just haven't decided yet. Yeah. Right now we're trying to get like an actual an executive producer on, but we'll see what happens. COVID's kind of
scripts that I have written and never done anything with. I'm very jealous right now.
He does. He has hundreds of horror scripts in the house right now.
I have
screenwrite as a hobby.
Yeah, I have other ones that I have that they just this one's just special. Like there's like deeper meanings in the script. But yeah, and it's something I've worked on. I started back like in college, like young Brittney. It's went through. I can't even tell you how many drafts, but yeah,
you keep saying
and it's Halloween.
And you feel so old.
Well, I'm
Brittney, you're so young.
I'm old. I'm older. I'm a lot older than I look. I promise.
So much. I'm still older than you. I guarantee it. So
young Brittney in college was like, God, like almost 15 years ago now. Like that's crazy. That's not a fun thing to think about.
We're not going.
That's not a fun thing to think about.
15 years ago for me. If only it was 15. Yeah. All right. So let's show the trailer here because I don't think these guys have seen your trailer, so I'm excited to show them, get their reaction to this, Brittney.
You'll have to watch it like when you can hear the score. We had a guy do the score, and it's pretty tight.
Yeah, like most definitely.
Yeah, it's Happy Halloween. And 417 drone, they did our drone shot.
That's cool.
Yeah, it looks really pretty. And David and Tyler are amazing. They shot it, and then our actresses are phenomenal. We have a lot of really good actors in it too. Alleen's amazing. We have, and Mickey Stone is our technically like our deputy sheriff type character, which everybody thought when we had him that he was gonna be the killer. And it's like, nope, not at all. But yeah, it's fun. So we shot it in like 2 days. And then we had like a couple days of just like some pickup shots. So it was a busy 2 days. It was very long. And one day it was like 30, and the next day it was like 75.
Welcome to the
everybody was sweating. But yeah, you should definitely watch it when you get to hear like the score and stuff, and not me talking over it. Because it's pretty great. That's Amelie and Nathan, or Nathaniel. I'm sorry. I call him Nate. I guess everybody prefers different things. But yeah, there he is. Mickey Stone. He's the best. I feel bad because you guys can't hear anything. Except for me talking. I wish I could like play the score for you, but I can't.
We could just do like the like that. I can't remember what it's called now, where we just make up what they're saying as it goes.
Right? Like just like ad lib over it.
Yeah, there was a movie they did that with back in the like late 80s, early 90s. It was something spaghetti something. I can't remember what it was, but anyway.
Or like Mystery Science Theater.
I love
Have, like, little people.
Instead of just like riffing the movie, it was just a movie played on silent, and anytime someone spoke, they just like would make up on the spot what they were saying. So just kind of like making up the movie as they went. And it was a whole
I feel old because there was a comedy troupe called the Firesign Theater that did it in the very, very early 80s, late 70s, where they stitched together different movies to create one movie. And they were all old RKO films, and they created a different soundtrack, and they used just pieces of all kinds of different movies. Rocketman from the Moon, Captain Marvel, Captain America, Spy Smasher, and they created a villain called the Lightning Bug, and they took all these different villains and all these different looks and just made it seem like he liked to change costumes and go up against different people. And it was very funny, very funny. You can look it up for free on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Shoot me a message with that, because I would love to check that out.
This is cool.
And that's Rylan. That he was a big sport because it got really cold, and he had to have that makeup and blood on his chest.
That fake blood.
It was freezing.
Photo shoots with it in the middle of in Brumley, Missouri. We did a haunted house shoot at the haunted house there, the historical haunted house, and we had Stephen Matute, who's a model, and he's one of my kids. He calls me mom, but he was out there, and he was our male model for the day, and we covered him in blood so many times, and then he had to go wash it off and then do something else and then cover him in blood again. And it was like October, and he was out laying on cement with blood just poured over him, with like girls like ripping intestines out of him and stuff, and he was so cold, like he was shivering afterwards. I felt so bad. They're such true.
Yeah, people
covered in blood, and then try being completely covered in blood, and then have to like actually get in the water at Lindenlure in about the last what was it? The last week of March, I think.
Is it from the calendar shoot?
Yeah, we did I picked up a couple of the old calendars that we did back in 2014 with the Hotel of Terror, and there was one of the shots in there. We did a zombie shoot, and well, hang on a second, I'll show it to you.
He's covered in blood, but he's in the water. These like people don't realize what actors and models and stuff go through for these. Like crazy. But
or how cold fake blood is.
Yeah,
like it's actually super, super cold.
Yeah,
sticky.
It was
cold and sticky.
Spring. It was barely spring when we started to do this. I mean, the water was freezing, and of course, there's me on the side, like here.
And it's like, and you want to be the one that does it. Like when they bring it up, they're like, "Hey, can we spray you with blood?" And you're like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then when it happens, you're like, "Yeah," you're like, "That's not smart of me. Like I should have thought before I volunteered."
Right.
Usually how it happens.
Oh, it was so cold.
So yeah, appreciate those actors and models and people who do those things, because that is not easy. I don't care what it looks like. It is not easy.
Dedication.
And cold and your trailer looks 100%. Amazing though, Brittney. If you guys do have to do a Kickstarter, which I hope you don't, I hope you find an executive producer, but if you do happen to do a Kickstarter, send me the link and I'll share it everywhere. So
sweet. Thank you. Yeah, that's what, and it's not like, I don't know, somebody was like, "So you're downing Kickstarters." I was like, no, not at all. I just don't want to have to manage it. Managing them is hard.
Just take care of that.
Yeah. It's like,
why wouldn't you?
I would love to just be able to direct and not have to worry about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Most definitely. And, GeekyKOOL, we're happy to promote it as always with anything you do, Brittney. We love to promote you and your work. So yeah. So
that's the only way people succeed, especially like in the indie world, whether it's filmmaking, photography, like podcasts, like it doesn't matter what it is. It's like with it being indie, you have to have people support it. It's like
word of mouth is everything.
It's like you're dead in the water.
Definitely is.
Yeah, 100%.
So
okay, guys.
And it's a horror film. Like it's Halloween based.
Yeah. I mean, you
Speaking of horror films.
Speaking of horror films, we're 20 minutes in, so we're gonna get to our list, guys.
Yes. Already.
I'm sorry, I'm the taskmaster. Larry has me here.
No.
I love it.
He really does. He says it says I'm eye candy, but that is not the truth. That is not. You know,
it is true.
So
no.
Let's get started with our list. So who wants to go first? Who's number 5?
I'll go.
Oh, what if I don't have them in actual order?
You just put them out whichever one.
It's okay.
You know you probably have a number 1.
You tell me what it is and I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what's your number 5?
Oh, okay.
He's got props.
My number 5, and I mean these aren't in any kind of particular order except for number 1 probably, but my number 5, Hellraiser, Mr. Pinhead himself.
Pulling up the picture. Here we are.
Of course, when you talk about the first, probably the first 2, the ones that Clive Barker was actually involved in, totally different than what they would become. I mean, especially the first one. Like, there's always been one aspect of the first one that's intrigued me that you never hear anybody talk about. Like, I want to see a Hellraiser movie that is kind of the flip side of things, because when Pinhead first introduces himself, he says that that the box is a gateway to the pleasures of heaven or hell, not just hell, and that you know they are demons to some, angels to others, and all you ever see is just the people that don't want to get tortured forever. So I want to see like the people that consider that heaven. But yeah, huge Clive Barker fan, a huge fan of just the twisted aspect of it. I mean, here is a guy, you know, everybody always talks about Freddy and his little quips that he has. There is no character in maybe movie history, let alone horror movie history, that has dialogue cooler than Pinhead. He just has the best lines, which sadly, like my favorite Pinhead line of all is in one of the worst Hellraiser movies, but Hellraiser 4, the one in space. But yeah, he just gets the coolest lines, and yeah, I love him.
I'm all for the Pinhead, so like you know that I've watched it, and my problem is a lot of the times with franchises they go off the rails so much that the longer they go, and yeah, so
especially once they went straight to DVD.
Yeah, but I agree that I really like the first one. I think it's really good, and you know, it's not on my list because it's not my type of movie as much. But I will watch it, you know that, so I like it.
Cool.
All I can say, it goes on the list of what has Larry not seen.
Yeah.
You've not seen it?
I have not.
I don't think you'll like it.
No. I
don't think you'll like it, Larry.
I was always intrigued by it because it looked like it had more going on than just straight slasher.
Oh,
so I was always kind of intrigued, but
the first two, especially. I mean, you know, when you think Hellraiser, you think, okay, you know, Pinhead's going to show up and he's going to kill some people and do some whatever. I mean, the first one really wasn't that at all. I mean, it was more a story about this woman who was just like a total, you know, expletive deleted here, but like had cheated on her husband on their wedding day, and then the guy that she had cheated on him with is actually the one who had opened the box, and he was taken away to hell. So now it's like a few years later, and the box comes into their possession again, and like she ends up killing a guy in the spot where the guy had died, and it brings back his corpse, and he's just like this, like it's basically like putting him back together slowly. So he starts off as just like a nervous system connected to a spine, and then it's like some muscle tissue and whatever.
Brittney,
But
your
like the
face was
Cenobite,
perfect, sir.
Yeah, it's so gross. I don't think
Pinhead
you'll
and
like
the other
it.
Cenobites are really
Well,
kind of like, they're not even the antagonist of the movie, is basically what I'm getting. They kind of are like the police of hell. They're just coming to get this guy back that got away from them. So,
Well, it's like, when are people going to learn? Stop opening boxes. Don't read Latin.
Yeah, no doubt.
Don't pick up the doll. Don't go in the house.
From Pandora. Pandora opened the first one.
Yeah.
It's why I never learned Latin.
Yeah,
I never
leave it
learned
shut.
Latin, so I wouldn't have to do this. So we do have a couple comments from Ashley, one of our GeekyKOOL contributors. She says, yay, when we're talking about horror, because she's also a huge horror fan. I tried to get her to join us, but she wasn't able to. And she wants to know where she can find Brittney's movies.
So,
well, 2 of them are web series, and they're on YouTube.
So YouTube, yeah. And then Happy Halloween, you can go to my page, and I can share the link again if you want to see the trailer for Happy Halloween, like with this awesome score.
With the soundtrack, yeah.
Okay.
And I can add it in. Yeah. So we will get that added up, but I'll send you links, Ashley. So I actually have that. And she says, thank you. And she did have a dentist thing. That's part of the reason she could not be here. A pretty intense dentist thing going on. So, but we miss you, Ashley. Come join us anytime. You know you're always welcome. So, all right. So that was number 5. So who wants to go with their next 5?
I'll go.
All right.
This is the one I was saying isn't really a horror film. The Guest.
Yes.
Ooh.
Have you guys
I wondered if it was. I've never seen
not
this,
a horror film. It's amazing. Yeah, it's more of a thriller. It's a Halloween movie. Yeah, it's a Halloween movie, and you don't realize it's a Halloween movie until like halfway through the movie, which is amazing. But it's the score, the score and the soundtrack are phenomenal. Like, they're so good. They're like 80s techno kind of pop soundtrack.
That is great. Yeah, I mean,
all about the 80s. He's like, yeah, you brought the 80s.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, if you haven't, that's why it's on my list, because it's just amazing. Like, it's a lower budgeted movie, and it's shot really well. The acting's great in it. And it's not really like a horror film. Like, it's classified as horror. But again, it's one of those subgenres. It's on my favorite Halloween, like my top 5 Halloween horror films.
Where it's like it's going along this nice little plane of like, oh, this is this movie, and then all of a sudden, about halfway through, it just goes completely left.
Yeah, it takes and it's like the best turn imaginable. Yeah. Like, when you're watching it,
nowhere and extreme.
And it's the Dan guy that's the main guy. Like, you've never seen him do any part like this before. Like, he is so good and creepy. And like I said, like, when I was watching it, and like halfway through, I'm like, holy crap, this is a Halloween movie. Like, this is a Halloween movie. And like, I just got that more excited. Yeah. Like, I went from like, I really like this because it's shot well and it's just a new, interesting story. And then it's like, it's a Halloween movie. And I just like jumped up and I was like, yes. Oh my God.
I can't think of the guy's name, but it's the guy that made You're Next. It's the same guy made this one. And like, You're Next is kind of the same
amazing.
It's like slasher movie, survival.
Yeah. And again, like, You're Next is on one of my like in my top 10. You know what I mean? So it's like, it bums me out that we couldn't have 10, because like, that's my favorite. Like, horror is my favorite.
Yeah, I've got personal connection to You're Next, so I would have to put that one on the upper echelon list as well.
Yeah. So. It's so good.
I personally think you and Shpoo should do a series at least a couple of times
just
a
horror
month or something.
It's just horror films.
You guys
definitely could
so much. We set that up.
I'm friends with the guy that did the special effects for You're Next.
Me too.
He did the Mike Stream. Yeah. I was actually going to ask.
Mike's amazing.
I was going to ask if he did the makeup on the trailer you showed a little bit ago.
On Happy Halloween, that was me. He was going to do it, but him and Madison were out of town on a like on another set that could pay them.
Right.
So since it was a proof of concept, it was. I mean, everybody was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this in hopes we can get money to pay everybody."
Right.
But he did the makeup and the blood for Strange Happenings.
Yeah.
He did our Bigfoot suit for us. Like he made our Bigfoot suit. And he did our goblin makeup for Strange Happenings. And then for Stage Fright, he did our all of our makeup for Stage Fright.
I was in a few of
I love
his
Mike.
very
He's
early
great.
movies.
Yeah, he's great. I love working with Mike and Madison and Lily.
Yeah.
I love working with them. They're great people.
Yeah.
Well, and Brittney was in a contest for her makeup ability, so she's.
Oh yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And what did I do? I did werewolf makeup,
which was great.
Werewolf attack.
It was awesome.
Which is hard. American. I don't know. Anyways, I won't talk about it because it's not on my list. I won't talk about it. It's not on my list.
All right.
Keith,
bringing it down.
Let's go to Keith.
Look at this nice framed smile we got dead center here. That's beautiful.
He's just
I know.
You've got the nicest smile, man.
He does.
I'm just looking at
it warms your heart.
frame and in dead center. There's Keith just with that beautiful smile.
He's got that pretty lighting going on.
I know.
He does.
Got
Need
good
better
lighting.
lighting. Yeah.
Because it flickered, and I was like, "Oh, hey, look at that! That's nice."
Thank you, everyone. Your check is in the mail.
So, Mr. Amazing Keith, what is number 5 on your list?
You know what? It has to be The Evil Dead.
It's on my extended list. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, now we can talk about it. But for a movie that was made for $350,000 and to have become so popular, especially for people in the industry, that entire film and how they made it is still, to me, one of the greatest achievements in independent filmmaking of the last 50 years. And still ranks as one of my all-time favorites.
Toys.
You got everything, dude.
I got one for everybody.
But
It really does.
But you know, it is just one of those films that it not only achieves so much, but it's the lasting effect after the movie comes out.
Like the generation.
With Renaissance Pictures. Yeah, not just with the sequels or spin-offs, but what it did for Renaissance Pictures in helping the small group of friends rise through the ranks and affect everything that they've done since then. All the different types of television shows that they've done. I mean, not just spy shows. They even made one of the early superhero TV shows through Renaissance Pictures, and it was Mantis, and that was again. Look, to bring it back to The Evil Dead, there's no part of that isn't really cool to me. And getting a chance to meet Ted and hang out with Ted Raimi for a while was just one of my top 10 all-time favorite moments. And
so jealous.
Yeah,
You're always hanging out with the best people.
I know.
No, that's Gary. That's Gary. That's Gary. It's not me. That's Gary. I have a funny story about hanging out with Ted.
You get to go.
I have a very
it's scary, but yes, you get to join in. Okay.
I do have a funny Ted story. This is how I first met Ted. I met him at a convention in St. Louis, near the airport. And it was the same convention where I actually got a chance to meet James Doohan, Scotty from Star Trek. And I was there with friends, and we were hanging out and imbibing some liquor that I had been gifted when somebody pulled the alarm. I was given a box of liquor, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that story, because I can't even tell you what actually happened to the bottle.
Box of liquor?
Well, it was a bottle of scotch, is what it was, and I have no idea what actually happened to the bottle after all this happened. But somebody pulled the alarm.
You're going to say, I have no idea what actually happened the rest of the night.
That's what I thought he was going to say. I was like, uh-oh. I was like,
all I know is that somewhere in there I met Ted Raimi and Scotty.
I woke up the next morning and they were just
or
there.
someone told.
That's almost the way my story goes. We were towards the top floor in this hotel, so having to work our way down without using the elevators through the stairwells. And so there's a crowd of people. You go out the fire exit doors, and there's all kinds of people, almost to a person. They're all outside looking up back at the building, right? And you've seen these movies or television shows where you have the main character walk out and they do the same thing, and they kind of do not quite a double take, but they look around, they see all their friends, and they see a famous person. They go, hey, and you look back up. Well, that's what happened. I'm standing around looking for my wife and one of my friends from high school because they were in another part of the hotel. I'm thinking, did they make it out? So I got another friend of mine, Ted Raimi, was like, hey, Ted, how's it going? And I'm looking back up. It was like, and my brain caught up to what just happened. It's like, I look back and it's like, well, that's Ted Raimi. And so Ted was cool. Ted was a really cool guy to get to know, to hang out with. He was at least nice enough to humor me when I tried to get information. This will tell you how long ago this was. When I tried to get information about his brother's upcoming movie called Spider-Man. Yeah. And he held on to some information that
Bruce is also in.
This is
yeah.
Yes, Bruce, along
Bruce
with Rob Tappart, who is the producer for many of their movies. Rob Tappart's wife is also in, making a cameo appearance. So, but
I love your story about meeting him. That's amazing. I don't get to meet him. I'm not home all the time. 40
minutes in, and we're only three of us have done our number 5.
Yeah. I know.
I said my phone. I haven't been talking. I swear. I haven't. I've been sitting here just listening to everybody's story.
This was going to happen.
So, yeah. I'm just going to throw my number 5 out there. And it's 1953, Vincent Price, House of Wax. I love classic movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love classics, and Vincent Price is one of my favorites. And I've talked about him a little bit in the last couple weeks, but not as much as I wanted to because I was saving him for this. Vincent Price does the old school horror better than almost anyone. Not monster movies, horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like he invokes so much. And House of Wax, I remember watching it, and this is terrible. My mom had me watch it. My mom loved horror movies, and she had me watch it. And then we were going on vacation, and we went into a House of Wax like 2 weeks later. Freaked me out so much as a child. I was like, I remember like just walking through, and in my mind, I'm just like, are they really Are they
Are they people?
I was 6. I know. I think I was like 6 or 7, and it freaked me out to the point of no return. So it had to go on my list for that reason, and because it's Vincent Price, and he had to make my list in some way. So
Vincent Price is amazing.
I was wondering if Vincent Price would make your list, and then I saw it and went, "Oh yeah, that's a great one. That's an amazing pick there." By the way, I discovered something really interesting. Vincent Price did his own version of Monster Mash from 1977. So if you've not heard his rendition, that is interesting. So it's a lot of fun.
And a lot of people think I'm stupid for this, but I actually like the remake, the House of Wax remake.
Yeah.
I like how it's shot.
Paris Hilton get her head impaled in a pipe.
Cinematically,
I love how it's shot.
But
like, I love the shots in it.
I'll give you that. Cinematography in that is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I love what they did with it.
Yeah.
See, and I think everybody dogs on Paris Hilton. She's actually really good in that movie. She's probably she's one of the strongest in that movie. She did a really good job.
I know, but when you say that, that just makes me point out the fact that everyone else, like, when you say Paris Hilton was one of the best in the
she's
movie,
good. She is good.
In a movie that is filled to the brim with
I think she gets dogged on a lot.
In a movie that is filled to the brim with every cliche in the book, she's the one that actually felt like she was trying.
I can't help.
She did feel like she was trying in it.
Yeah.
So that I will give you that.
And like as far as like the
Wade,
her death scene and stuff, she knocked it out.
So Professor, what's your number 5?
It's again.
We got to
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brittney.
No, I was just gonna say again, it's not on my list for my top 5. That's why I was like, I get dogged on for saying that I like it.
No, everybody can like anything they want. That's my opinion on it. I like things when people are like.
But Vincent, I mean the original's way better. Like, I'm not saying it's better than the original by any means.
No, I would have to argue with you on that one.
So we got a few comments. So let's throw up these comments real quick just to hit them. We've got Jason. Keith has Vandervoort bathroom lighting.
He does.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
Super jealous.
Actually says, yes, Evil Dead's one of my favorites. And then goes on to say, it's got a great intro. There's a video with Vincent Price, calls Human Monsters before the song. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Because they are.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo was right. We're the real monsters.
We are.
Well, yeah, that's usually true. Just look at our elections.
Larry, no election talk today.
No, I'm just saying we're come on. All right. So I'm going to go with number 5. I almost had a different one make number 5, but I went with this one because it's actually a slasher movie that I like, and mostly because it doesn't take itself super seriously. And it has one of those girls that I just have had a crush on for probably 30 years. So, so I went into this movie expecting her to be the star. I actually was mad when they killed her off. I was angry when they killed her off because I love Drew. So but then I did enjoy the movie, and then I've enjoyed it since then. So Scream makes my list because it doesn't take itself too seriously, giving that list of what.
The thing is it didn't take itself serious at all. That's the whole point of it. It was like
it was a parody of slasher movies while being a slasher movie that broke all of the trope rules at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it was a good slasher movie. Yeah, it was. It was. So,
Kevin Williamson is phenomenal. This Scream is actually probably my number 1. So the fact that it's your number 5 bums me out a little bit. But
just be happy that it made my list. So I'm not a horror guy.
But it's
like on your list too.
Yes, yeah. It's probably my number 1, to be honest. Like my 1 or 2. It's kind of hard to say which one, but it's like there's a poster like right behind my head. I've got a giant Scream poster, and then my mom made me a Scream wreath, so that's right there with the mask and a machete. But it's like, I know she's pretty great. But the reason why I liked Scream so much, I mean, I remember watching it with my mom, like on VHS, because I didn't get to go to the theaters to see it because I was pretty young. But we watched it on VHS, and I remember it was like the funnest thing ever because I'm a huge slasher. Like, slashers are my favorite. That's my favorite part of horror would be the slasher films. And slashers in the 70s, like late 70s, early 80s, had a big craze, and then they just got ran into the ground. And like Scream came around, and they're like, okay, we're gonna give you this super clever script with these really good jump scares, and we're going to do something that's never been done before, and we're going to make our characters self-aware. And to me, that was just genius to be like, hey, we live in a world with horror movies. These characters should know about horror movies. And so, like, it's a genius.
Right. And created a whole new standard at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And then they, like, did this big... I mean, like, you got all these amazing slasher movies that came out of that. You know, you got I Know What You Did Last Summer. You got Urban Legends. I mean, you had these other movies kind of come from the fact that Scream did so well. Why?
I'm very
for killing Drew?
Because he did a passover of the H2O script, the Halloween H2O script.
Yeah.
And the script that it was before he did that was 1,000 times better, and he gave it that early 2000s flair, and it for that one movie it did not work, and it ruined the movie.
Well, and it's like
and we got Michael Myers mask, which was terrible.
He was on for Scream 3 for a while too, and Scream 4, and then he backed away. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I'm super jazzed that they're making Scream 5. Like I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped about it.
Intrigued.
And it's like, I don't know if you guys, I shared it.
New Ultimate Ghostface. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I shared it. Vanity Fair did an interview with Neve Campbell and Jamie Lee Curtis, and it's like one of the best things I've seen, because they talk about like how, I mean, because Halloween and Scream were kind of like they're, in my opinion, what made like Halloween made slasher films, in my opinion.
Of the Scream
and then
Queens.
and then Scream kind of remade them. But anyways, Scream's probably one of my favorite horror franchises, on top of like one of my favorite all-time movies and horror movies. Love it.
Very, very cool.
I knew that one would get you going there, Brittney. So
so it didn't make mine or Shpoo's list, but we had Larry's list, and we were trying to get as many as possible in, and so we don't have crossovers. The three of us.
I specifically wanted my list to be completely separate from everybody else's. I don't know if I have any of your two. But
I think me and Larry have two.
Yeah, so, we do.
I think.
Which is crazy, because I'm not that big of a fan for horror. So that's
they're classics. But they're classics.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
So Shpoo, what's your number 4, bud?
My number 4 is the movie on my list that I said I'm not entirely sure that it should be classified as a horror movie. It is, in that it has a lot of like gore and that type of thing to it, but it's the Belko Experiment.
That's a good movie.
That is a good movie.
Very good movie. James Gunn.
Well made.
Of course, you've got all the staples of a James Gunn movie. You've got Michael Rooker in there, and all the guys that are in his movies typically. But basically, you've got this like government office building in where is it? Cuba, I think it's in Cuba. But
no, I think it's in South America.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think they just said South America.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's Cuba, but I could be mistaken. But anyway, they're just at work one day, and all of a sudden, like, the shutters close over the windows and the doors, and a voice comes over the intercom and says, "You've got, the next few minutes or whatever to pick out 4 people and kill them. And if you don't do it, we're going to kill twice as many of you." And of course, they're like, "Oh, this is a prank," until people's heads start exploding. And so, long story short, they task them to pick out and kill X amount of people in X amount of time, or we are going to randomly select you, twice as many people and blow your heads up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps going and going and going until there's only one person left. And it's fantastic.
So
it's a good movie.
So just because I know you like facts, Shpoo, it's Bogota, Colombia. Is where it's
Colombia.
I like that. I like that you looked it up.
I live with
like got it.
I live with this man, and he likes specific facts. So you don't.
I knew it was a sea country, but I couldn't. I just like Cuba was the only thing popping in my head, and I'm like, it doesn't sound right, but it was the only thing I could think.
Colombia. Yes, so Colombia. You had the C right. Yep.
Close enough.
All right.
You got it.
In the right general area of the world.
You got it.
Well, Brittney, what would be your number 4?
Mine is Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
So I remember watching this movie when I was probably about 5 or 6. I watched it with my dad and my brother. I'm pretty sure my brother was there. And I don't know why. But when we were at our dad's house, we got to rent VHSs. Like we went to the store, like, right. Normal folks used to do. And so that's kind of what we did. And so to watch my movie, I had to watch their movie, and theirs were always horror films. And so like now when you look at it, it's not really a horror film, but I just like it was burned into my memory, like the scene where the clown is making the guy look like a puppet. And so he's got like blood like down his chin, and he's got like blood on his face, and he's like talking like he's a puppet, and then just like dumps him off to the side. And the prosthetics in that movie are just stellar. But like that was bred.
Are phenomenal.
Oh yeah. And I got this out because this is what Keith got me.
Oh.
Nice.
That's nice. Oh my gosh.
There you go, Keith.
Right? It was great. He was like, I got you something. And I was like, what? Like at the time, like I had just watched it again. It's like in my DVD player right now. Like this is what I was watching before we started.
A couple of months ago. She had never seen it.
I had never.
Oh my gosh.
It's
so over the top.
It was one of those movies that I just never seen. And Shpoo and I, we try to find movies that each other haven't seen, and we do that. But also he's always trying to introduce me to these weird movies.
So good.
And I had heard about it, but it wasn't really my thing. And then I watched it, and I love it. And he was
so over the top.
Like, he was like, you liked it?
The other brothers actually keep saying that they've been in talks with Netflix to do a Killer Clowns series.
Yeah. When it's like, and if you like,
I haven't heard anything for a minute on that, but they keep bringing it up about every year or so. You'll hear something from them, like we're still in talks, it's still happening, but it's supposed to be a series, like the clowns come back.
Whoa! Why does it always have to be my Keith's holding something back?
You did this. Keith does this thing when you talk and you say something and he knows something. He does this little like look down and nod thing. Everybody knows you do it. Just say it. You've heard stuff.
I have heard the same thing Shpoo just got through talking about. That's what I'm reacting to.
They just keep saying it is happening.
Yeah, they keep
it's just a matter of when.
See, now you're taking word. You know what okay.
He's like, that's not what I said.
I didn't say you said anything. I just said you did the look that you do when you know something.
So Mikey's not broke that yet, huh?
We need. If
you know it is happening. It's just a matter of when is it going to happen. So it's not like there's any big news other than it is happening now. I mean,
right? But are they going to keep it like the original and have it kind of like the over the top and keep the prosthetics and not do CGI? Because that's the only reason that movie holds. That's the only reason it holds.
Apparently, isn't at liberty to say. Everything that I've read on it, they said they want to stay in the spirit of the original, like do it the same way that they did the original.
Yeah.
That it basically be like the original, except it's like the clowns have come back. So it's like a sequel series set 30 years in the future.
Could you imagine if you got to be in that series? Like I would be ecstatic.
I would murder. Yes,
I would be ecstatic.
Let me be. Yeah, I don't care.
Like put me in cotton candy.
Turn into cotton candy. I don't care.
Yeah, let's do it. Throw popcorn at me. Let's go.
So let me say, this is a movie I've seen.
Yay!
Yes.
But I'm not saying
it's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
Because I watched it and went, why am I watching this? Really,
it's good. It's
because
good.
it's wonderful.
Here's the thing, Larry. You have to watch it with somebody who loves it, because then you
Oh my
learn
gosh.
to appreciate it a little bit more. Because I don't know if I would have sat down by myself to watch it. It's one of those movies I don't know if I would have gotten into, but because I was sitting next to somebody who loved it.
Well, not just that, but you have to like either someone who loves it or someone who just knows the Kyoto brothers, the guys that made this movie.
You can't say those prosthetics aren't solid.
Yes, and you can imagine them like sitting around in a room, probably stoned off their asses one night, laughing it up and just being like, you know what would be great? If we had like alien clowns that like turned people into cotton candy, it would be just like us having that conversation, except they were like,
but made it.
Let's do it. We can make prosthetics and costumes and stuff. Let's make this movie happen.
And then it's like when they're going to find the clowns, like when they're going to find Debbie, and they're like, we don't know where they're at. And it's like, where would you go if you were a clown? The amusement park. What do you mean you guys have an amusement park? What are you talking about? Like, where did that come from? Why wouldn't they have just stopped there to begin with? Because it's over the top. It's amazing. They're so great. Like that makeup still holds to this day. Those prosthetics are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So good.
I mean, George Lucas was even inspired by Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah.
Think about the Phantom Menace. Hit the nose.
Yeah.
All I can say is it's been since 1988 before Brittney was born when I saw that. So.
Oh man, it was so good.
Keith.
That's really cool,
with
Keith.
The Kyoto Brothers?
Wait, Keith,
Yep.
That's Keith with the Kyoto Brothers.
Of you.
You suck.
That's how I have the autograph. So I'm fine with that picture. I'm okay with that one.
Fair enough.
Okay.
All right, Keith. Who's your number 4? Because at this rate, it will be midnight. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my number 4. My number 4 is has a little bit of a connection to the state of Missouri, but it is a film that has helped to just redefine 2 genres at the same time, and there was no other film like this, and it's one of the few movies of its type that even everybody at the Academy got excited about. It was the winner of Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, and it won 3 Saturn Awards and even a Hugo. And it's the 1979 Ridley Scott film Alien.
Good.
That movie just blew me away, and the cast is amazing. But for me, the fact that Dan O'Bannon, you guys have heard that name before. Dan O'Bannon? Okay. He was the guy that wrote the screenplay based on an idea from both himself and Ron Schutzit. Man, I can't pronounce his last name. I am so sorry. But Dan was actually from St. Louis. St. Louis guy.
What?
And he actually came into creating this based on another film he had been a part of. Okay? I know some of you out there probably have heard Alejandro Jodorowsky's adaptation of Dune. It's a famous movie that never got made. Yeah. And he was able to convince H.R. Geiger and Jean Mobius Girard to be part of his team of artists to help define the look of this movie. And they created all this artwork and stuff for it that Dan O'Bannon saw some of it when he was working with them. And when the movie didn't happen, Dune, basically Mr. O'Bannon and a few other people just sort of cribbed some of that artwork, and some of those ideas that you saw in Alien were originally meant for Dune.
There's a documentary about his Dune film that never happened. It's insane, but I want to find the parallel universe that movie exists in.
Oh, geez, that movie was going to be one of the most... I mean, it makes the 84 version of Dune look like a Disney children's film. And it was going to be,
if that movie had been made to the scale that it was like planned
supposed to be,
it would still be a movie that is looked upon as like one of the best.
Well, it would have been the modern day equivalent to how important Metropolis is to all film, but especially science fiction. It was just would have been one of those movies that as soon as the credits rolled, your head just would have went.
Yeah.
So
I can't make that noise.
So is Alien? I can't either. Is Alien on anybody else's list?
It's my number one.
Yeah.
Is it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I stole
sorry.
Brittney's number one.
Yeah, he stole my number one.
Yeah.
It had to be done.
Yeah, I actually was watching this last night. So I was watching Alien. It is on HBO Max. So I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it in a while, and I've got it number one on my list. I need to see it again. And it's my favorite horror movie of all time as far as true horror. I tell people Alien is the horror movie with sci-fi around it. And Aliens is a sci-fi movie with horror around it.
You know what's great about that? You say that it's a horror film with sci-fi around it, but if you look at Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, like all of those movies are a different genre. Every one of them.
Right. They are, yeah.
Sci-fi
I agree.
Horror. Second one, action horror. Third one is like a drama / survival horror. Then the fourth one is just like straight up cheesy monster movie horror.
Right.
But yeah, every one of those movies is a different genre, and yet they all still
live together.
Work for the most part.
Right.
Well, and they say, it's like the perfect haunted house because you can't escape. You know what I mean? Because you're in space. So it's like, it's literally like you're stuck in the house and you can't get out. Yeah. Like you just have to stay there with the monster.
Which is what draws the fear out so much, because it's like you're enclosed, but you're not. So you have the claustrophobic fear.
But you're in space, which is huge.
Yeah, but you can't exactly. So it's like you have that fear of like the black, like all the phobias that can be put into a film. That one has like a lot of them, but they're subliminally put in there that freaks everyone out in certain levels, and so it's beautifully done. So yeah, I know, I agree with it. I think it.
And screw Captain Marvel, Ellen Ripley for the win.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver is so good. She's so good.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that movie. So that's a great one, Keith. So right on, man.
Awesome. So my number 4, we're gonna move along a little bit. My number 4 is just a movie that no, I like number 2, I like number 1, but I did not like number 3. I didn't understand where they went with it. But it has to be Poltergeist, and the reason is because that movie freaked me out so much as a child. I swear that my mom had us watch these horror movies just to scare us so much. Like I think she enjoyed it, but you can't get any like creepier than a little girl like saying like little kids are creepy.
They're creepy.
They're so creepy. And if you could put a little kid in a horror movie and make them the star, it is just the creepiest things. And that little girl, like they're like touching the TV. It was just psychologically as a child, it messed me up.
Yeah, get them out of there.
Right?
Anytime a little kid's in a movie, get them out. Yeah, are they going to see ghosts? Get them out.
Get them out, right?
You got creepy kid. You got older actress in the movie
who's creepy.
Sounds like a child.
Zelda, I love Zelda so much.
Based off
she makes it creepy though.
She does.
And it was one of the movies that would kind of push giving us the PG-13 rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's the other thing. It was
real human skeletons at the end of that movie, by the way, in that pool.
Yeah. So
those were not. They were not props. They were real human skeletons.
Yeah.
That was very taboo. Yes. They don't recommend doing that anymore.
No.
Especially since they didn't film until after they had filmed the scene.
Yes. So,
I would have walked out. I'm done.
The thing I loved
finish the movie without me.
The thing I loved about Poltergeist as a kid was that there were several horror. I watched a lot of horror movies as a kid because my mom was a huge horror movie fan. But there were several parts of most of the movies that was like, hide your eyes or don't look at this. And it wasn't because of the gore. She didn't care about that. It was because of like the sex and the, you know, like the bad scenes we're not supposed to watch when we're 4 or 5. And this one, you know, there wasn't those scenes.
Right.
But it was terrifying. And so it was probably the first horror movie that I know, and it's not really a horror movie, but it's my scariest movie ever, and it's not on my list as horror, but Cujo was the first movie I was allowed to watch without having to stop. But this one is one of those that I didn't have to hide my eyes as a child, but I still wanted to. So,
yeah, you're just like, I'll do it myself. Like, I got it.
Don't make me watch it.
Yeah, I got it.
But yeah, so Poltergeist is on my list for number 4.
That's a good one. I actually enjoyed the first 2 Poltergeist movies. So
yeah, the third one I
love the second one.
Like I said, they went off
I actually
the rails.
think I might like the second one better than the first one. The preacher guy.
The preacher guy was so good in the second one.
Yeah.
Okay, so Professor, what's your number 4?
So it as strange as it is, I'm going with a true out-and-out horror movie, but it's from the 80s, so that's part of it. And there's some humor to it, but also, I mean, it's just what I like about this movie is the psychological nature and the whole dream issue. So we're gonna go with a little Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. The second one's horrible in my opinion. I hate the second one. Third one's not too bad, but the first one, I own this one on Vudu because I actually like to watch it around. Yep. So, and I like that it's actually not about Freddy. It is about Freddy, but really it's about Nancy. So
you didn't. So this is on your list, but when you were watching Scream from Wes Craven, you weren't like, hey, this short-haired blonde girl that we think we're going to follow through this whole movie isn't who we're following. Because he did it in Nightmare on Elm Street.
I know.
He was like, hey.
No, here's the thing. He was
like, hey, got you.
Helpful thinking on Professor's part because it's Drew Barrymore, and he was just like, please let her be in this.
They did it on purpose though in Scream because they said nobody would ever believe because Drew Barrymore was she was the only name at the time. No one else was known. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's like her face is the main. Her face is the main one, but I don't know. That's what I just love. I love Wes Craven though, and he also has he's dressed up as Freddy in Scream, and he's the janitor, and they call him Fred.
Well, yeah. So I didn't really know directors at that time. That wasn't really my focus, so I had no idea. I heard Wes Craven did Nightmare on Elm Street, but I had no idea he was doing Scream. I just knew, it's a Drew Barrymore movie, so it's probably not my cup of tea being a horror movie, but I'll watch anything with Drew Barrymore.
Because Drew Barrymore.
But again, I really liked it after it was done. But that was
Drew in the late 90s. Yeah.
Drew, wait. Okay, Drew in the late 90s. Horror films, slasher movie. Let's face it. What did I say last week about slasher movies? It's slash and boobs. And you were hoping to get a flash of boobs.
Well,
and what does Scream do? They give you a PG-13 relationship, and they don't show you any at all in any of them, which is amazing.
What?
Amazing.
How many guys went to see Scream
thinking they were going to see it?
Thought they were going to see Drew Barrymore naked?
Yes.
Yeah. And Drew's like, no.
Well, she already did Poison Ivy, guys. So if you wanted to see that, you could have seen that. So
on the David Letterman show, for God's sake.
That's true. You're right. Yeah, exactly.
She was in Playboy a couple of times.
Nightmare on Elm Street is phenomenal.
Yeah,
that movie. It's also on my list that didn't make it into my top 5.
Yeah.
It's the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm actually hitting kind of on the mark there, Brittney. See, being a non-horror guy, I'm actually getting some of that.
If you didn't have it on your list, I would have.
Yeah.
I almost wore my Freddy shirt tonight. I got my Jason on instead, but if you had not had it on your list, it would have been on mine for sure.
It's also another like amazingly. That's something that people don't give credit to horror films. I think is that a lot of these horror films are so beautifully shot.
Oh, that, like, and it was so low budget. The way that they pulled some of those effects off was amazing.
Yeah. It's insane.
But that was the first horror movie that I was allowed to watch all the way through. Allowed to. I won't say it's the first one I did watch. It was the first one I was allowed to. It's a classic. And I had an argument one time about like who the most dangerous like classic slasher was, and it's like, you know, Leatherface. Well, you can just not go to Texas. Pinhead, just don't play with puzzle boxes. Jason, don't go camping in a place called Camp Blood. Freddy, you gotta sleep sometime.
Yep.
Sorry. You're not getting away from
it's a medical thing. You can't not sleep.
Yeah.
Well, and they try in the movie. So one last thing to say. Ace mentioned the whole slasher thing with boob thing and talking about how Scream's PG-13. All I can say is
it's
you have to
R.
remember. Scream is?
Yeah, it's rated R, but that's a joke in the movie. She says, I'll give you a PG-13. Because everyone thought she was going to show her boobs.
Right.
And then they cut away.
Yeah.
So it was a joke.
All I can say is you got to remember 16 Candles had boob shots and it was PG-13.
It's changed. The rating system has changed drastically.
It has.
Because you would never get away with the shower scene from 16 Candles with the PG-13.
No.
Thank God for the 80s. I mean, yeah.
80s PG-13 was R.
Very much, yeah.
I love Larry. Thank God for the 80s. He's just like, I went to see a movie about a girl turning 16 and I got to see a full shower scene. Yeah.
It's
true. Like, it was innocent.
And like, you're officially on a list somewhere.
I was 16 at the time, so it doesn't matter.
He's like,
nice save.
There you go. Movie. Okay.
All right, Shpoo. Who's number 3?
Number 3, and this was a toughie because this is actually every year you have those movies where, or at least I do, where it's tradition to watch this movie on this day or this day. It's tradition to watch Die Hard every Christmas Eve, for example.
Right.
But this one is one that I tend to watch the day before Halloween, and that is Trick or Treat, a new classic. Last few years, I guess early 2000. Took a couple of years for it to finally come out. Sam, the little guy you see there on your screen, very, very cute and deadly at the same time. I've got a few of him behind me. He's actually literally right behind me there. But it's great. I mean, that movie was made in the early 2000s, and yet it feels like a movie that came out in the 80s.
It's amazing.
Feels very Lost Boys. It feels very Poltergeist. And that is another one of those movies where supposedly we're getting a sequel eventually sometime.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Same here. I mean, a couple of years ago at a convention, I mean, they even like released or showed like Trick or Treat 2 and all this stuff. Like it's in pre-production hell, basically. But hopefully it'll happen. I mean, it has enough of a following for sure. But if you're going to see Trick or Treat, find it, watch it immediately.
I wore my Trick or Treat shirt because it's another one that's like right underneath my top 5. Yeah, and so I was like, I'll wear it because I still love it so much, and it's in my top 5 Halloween movies. Because it's shot beautifully, like, and it's just nothing but Halloween, and it's a bunch of different stories that make one story.
Yeah,
it feels like a movie that came out in the 80s, and one of the greatest pictures. I've got a picture on my phone that a couple of cosplayers did that was just beautiful. But it's Sam sitting on Michael Myers' shoulders.
Awesome.
And it's 2 cosplayers, and like they've got like screen accurate costumes and everything, standing in a pumpkin patch. I'm like, this, I've got it saved on my phone. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. It's such a good movie. Like it's
Yes.
because it gives you like everything that you love about, in my opinion, everything I love about Halloween. Like you have your monsters, you have your pumpkins, you have your ghosts, your ghouls, your goblins. Like you have all of this stuff. Yeah, like you have all this stuff. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. Like I love like hearing how he came up with Sam, and it's like a college thing. And I don't know. Like I remember seeing previews, and it like got
the cartoon
dropped. Yes.
Keith is just like showing,
there's
like
a little,
making us jealous.
There's a little cartoon that he made with Sam in it before,
and he's adorable. He's adorable.
He's so freaking cute. I mean, well, that's
and he's so creepy. He's so creepy in the movie, though. Like, I don't know, I mean, like how they tie it all together.
Kids are creepy, and Sam was played by a child, and I mean, it's perfect.
It's such a good movie.
Kids are creepy enough as it is, but a burlap sack with a smiley face on it over their head with a freaky pumpkin head looking thing underneath, and
in that bus scene, like all the kids with the masks on, like the old school masks on in the bus. Like I'm like, what is happening right now? I'm very uncomfortable.
That's
like,
the old Gene Simmons and Ozzy. That movie was so bad. Actually, that movie is great until the last like 20 minutes, and then it forgets what it's doing and goes off the rails and ruins the whole thing.
Well, so there you go.
So for somebody who's not seen this movie, will I like it?
I think you might.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of really cool stuff in it.
It's one of those movies where it's not overly scary. There's a lot of like humor to it as well. It honestly feels like if someone who's really good at pretending to be Sam Raimi, but not actually Sam Raimi himself, made a movie in the early 2000s, but he actually went back to the 80s to get people that made movies back then to make the movie with him. That's what it feels like. If that makes any sense at all.
That feels kind of accurate.
There's a lot of humor to it, but it's got some good scares at the same time. It's fun. Doesn't take itself overly seriously.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's an instant classic.
If you like Halloween, you would like this movie. So not Halloween, the Halloween movie, but like if you like the holiday,
right? Yeah, right. So I think I probably would like it. I've actually saw it. I just have never watched it, so I've seen it around. But yeah, I like when you add humor to something because that kind of dials down the intensity. But I also like the thriller aspect. So if it's a thriller, I don't mind getting scared. I just don't want to see the girl running through the woods, tripping, getting hacked up again. Like, okay, blood spurting everywhere. Yay!
You get some of that. But
it's very different.
But there's a twist to it that you don't see coming. Well, and when I say that there's humor into it, I don't mean it's like you've got some comic relief character cracking stupid jokes all the time. I mean it's like it's campy,
right? And it's very clever. It's a clever movie,
very self-aware, and so there's just a lot of things that happen in it that's just like the situation. It's funny. And so it's kind of not necessarily mocking those tropes, but intentionally going there, but in a new and fresh, clever way. And it's brilliantly done.
I'll put it on my list to watch. All right, guys. Yeah. Awesome.
Watch it.
All right. Up to Brittney. No, other way. Up to Brittney.
So my number 3, which it's hard because it's tied with my favorite. So this is one of my favorite Hitchcock films, tied with another one that's not on my list, but I could only have 5, whatever rules. It's
because we're only going to be here till midnight,
right? So it's actually Psycho. I love this movie. I love everything about it. Again, it's another. I mean, Hitchcock did it before Wes Craven. It's another. You think that you're gonna follow this girl through the whole entire film. Like you think this is who you're supposed to be rooting for.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you get, I don't know, like in his shots, like I love that you have like one for everything.
The selection is huge. It's like,
I just love that the wig comes off. You got
nice.
Norman, Mother. Norman.
And it's
Mother.
I love how it's shot. I mean, anything Hitchcock does is shot well. But and I don't know, like the fact that it's like you think the mom's alive the whole entire time. Right. So again, it's just one of like as far as like horror's concerned, like you're like, man, like the mom's the killer. Like in back, I mean, obviously Psycho. This was way before Jason and Friday the 13th, to where that happened. So it's like you're watching Psycho and you're like, oh my God, this like it's the mom. Like, what is this? And then you find out the mom's just it's like you find out the mom's just been dead this whole entire time. You're just like mind blown. I'm like, how?
You have this like connection with Norman Bates because he's this
like, he's sweet and nice.
Even.
Also, talking about how it's filmed, that shower scene, amazing the way Hitchcock did that. The screen.
Well, and much like the Drew Barrymore thing from just a moment ago. I mean, here's half a movie where you're following this girl, and then all of a sudden, hey, she's dead.
She's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the Scream. Let's just talk about the Scream. We wouldn't have Scream Queens without
her.
Scream.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and it's Jamie Lee's mom. Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
She's basically what I call like the queen of
She's
horror.
the first. Yeah.
She was the first to do these things. Like she was the first Scream Queen. Hitchcock though always has this beautiful way of framing things.
Yes.
In a way that you don't realize that it's scary until it happens.
Right. Right.
And
it's black, like in the fact that it's black and white. Like I have so many people that tell me they won't watch it because it's black and white, and I'm like, it is gorgeous. Like,
oh, okay.
Like
Shpoo's walking through the living room right now, but
the black and I don't know. Like I think the fact that it's black and white,
it's gonna be dark
is amazing.
Yeah. I just love that scene in the shower. It's just because you don't see. You don't see.
Yeah, you don't see. Yeah, you don't see everything.
It's left up to your imagination to the point that that's what's scary about it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I love movies that make you imagine the and the like what's actually going on, because we tend to make things worse. Like humans tend to make things worse. If you see a car accident, like it could just be like
your imagination,
hurt, but your imagination goes there.
Runs wild.
Hitchcock was such an amazing filmmaker that he used that to his advantage in so many films.
Yeah,
the birds don't attack until the end. Like it's all about this build up.
Your build up.
Yeah.
Little horror movie trivia for you. Horror movie trivia for you. Can anybody tell me what was used for blood in the famous shower scene in Psycho?
Ketchup?
My blood. It was real blood.
Oh, it was chocolate, wasn't it? That's right.
Chocolate syrup.
That's right. I had heard that. Yeah.
Hershey's chocolate syrup.
And
it was the only thing that they could find that got the right texture in black and white.
That consistency.
And his name is Loomis, and he works at a hardware store.
Yeah,
taken and used in Halloween, which I love it. And it's like he works in a hardware store. Where does Michael get his mask? A hardware store.
Yeah.
What hardware store has masks?
One of the fan theories that I love so much is that Sam Loomis, like after all of that happened, that he like went into psychology to try to prevent another Norman Bates from happening, and took on this little boy named Michael Myers.
And he failed.
Yes,
he did not succeed.
No.
So let me say,
Psycho.
Let me say, Psycho's number 2 on my list.
Sorry. No. We just keep stealing all of yours.
That's perfectly fine. That's part of the fun of this. That way,
that way, I only have one left now. because he took one of mine. So.
Fun, you've taken one of his. That's all. It's all good. I actually.
And Keith. Yeah, and Keith took one.
He did. So let me say, I wanted to add a different Hitchcock movie on here. In Psycho definitely fits, but Rebecca is probably my favorite Hitchcock movie. But after rewatching it again, I've looked at it and said it's a thriller.
It's a thriller,
but I don't really consider it horror, so I left it off my list. But I think we probably talk about Rebecca at least every week, don't we, AJ? Because
we do.
They just redid it.
They did just redid it.
Not yet.
I haven't seen it. It's on Netflix. I haven't seen it yet, but it's an amazing book. It was a great film.
Yeah.
And Hitchcock, the thing about it is, I've talked to people I work with who have never seen a Hitchcock movie, and it makes me so sad. Oh, yeah, it makes me so sad. I work with a lot of younger people.
That's ridiculous. It should be in school. Like, you should have to watch some of them.
Yeah. But
or like Rear Window.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yes. So, but no, I agree. I love Psycho. I think that's a great one. So,
it's so good.
Keith, Mr. Amazing Keith, we're to you. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a movie that, again, it's kind of a little out there. And this film also was an attempt to kind of reinvent the slasher genre and change it a little bit. I love the creative people involved with this film. And I think those who have actually seen it will attest to the fact that this is a way different movie. This is another one of those, the movie starts out one way and becomes something entirely different by the time you get to the final. Well, literally the movie changes 3 times because it starts out as this one thing here. In the middle, it becomes this thing right here. And then at the very, very end, it's a completely different movie and an ending that a lot of people didn't see coming. Okay? It's the 2012 movie, Drew Goddard. What's that sound? Drew Goddard's The Cabin in the Woods. I love that film.
It's also on my, not made my list. It's amazing. Oh yeah, it's in my top 10. Yeah, it's like number 8.
Getting to top 5.
I also have seen it and do like this movie. It was on my list also. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, if you are a Buffy fan, this is definitely one of those films that you should watch because it's Team Buffy making a horror movie. And one of the things that I really, really enjoyed about this film was the fact that you not only had a cast made up of a few actors that had worked with him before, but it took me a while to find out that the special effects, monster costumes, the special makeup, prosthetic makeup for the movie were done by she still is an actress, film actress Heather Langenkamp, and her husband, David Leroy Anderson, and their company called AFX Studio.
Yep.
What?
So, Heather is, I think, the lead actress from the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. She plays Nancy.
Yep. So she and her husband did all of that. And I look at that and I'm going, wow, she did that? Boom, mind blown. You know,
that's why
all of it.
That's why I said earlier to not read the Latin. Like, it's like one of my favorite parts in the entire movie when he's like, you hear someone go, read the Latin, and he's like, did you guys hear that? He's like, don't read the Latin. Like, what are you doing? Like, come on.
Right, exactly.
Homages to other properties that are in that movie. There are so many.
And when he has the conch shell or whatever, he's like, he had it in his hands. It was right there. And he's like, man, you don't want to see a merman. Like, they're awful. Like, they're so gross. Like, you don't want to see that, right? It's when we went to when we got to go to Universal Studios, we got to do the horror nights, and one of the mazes we went through was Cabin in the Woods. And it was ridiculous. It was the coolest thing ever. Like, I just felt like we were just straight up walking through the movie. Like, it was insane. It was so cool.
Wow.
That's why I said it's embarrassing, because I'm a huge Buffy fan, and it's not in my top 5. It's like 7 or 8 probably. But it's amazing.
And you will admit, for everyone here that has actually seen the movie, you definitely did not see that ending coming.
Oh, no.
Nope.
No.
I mean,
No. It's Sigourney Weaver.
That was an ending.
She's in it too.
Yes, she is.
She's made the list quite a few times.
It is just one of those endings that by the end of the movie, you're just sitting there going, well, they went there.
And it's intelligent. Like I absolutely love it.
Yes.
Like, she dyes her hair blonde, and it's like, they're literally like, oh, it's making her stupid because she dyed her hair blonde. And then she's like, I'm cold. Like, I don't want to take my top off. I'm cold. And they're like, thermostat? Like, let's pump that up to 70. And it's like, it's too dark. And it's like, okay.
Like, I just love that was one of those famous happy accidents that happens where it was supposed to just be like a little, a good amount of blood, but not what we got. And the pump went out. So they literally just blew on it, and just blood spreads out everywhere. And you're like, that's staying in.
Well, and what I think, there's this shot in the movie that I think is, again, another one. The movie's just a genius movie. But when you're seeing what is supposed to be, again, our lead actor, you're seeing her, and they're like, so it's like screens like this, obviously. And then you're seeing her getting thrown around on the dock, and they pull back. So you're not even seeing it. Like, this is supposed to be like the big moment in the horror movie where your final girl's just getting the crap kicked out of her. You don't even see it. Like, it pulls back to these dudes, just partying, drinking champagne, and you're seeing it super tiny in the background, just getting thrown around. Like, you have no idea what's happening. And it's the creative decision to be like, hey, let's film this horrible, crazy, rag doll being thrown around, and we're not even going to show it really. But let's film it and have it in the background. It's just, I don't know. It's so smart. I'm glad somebody had it on the list, because I felt embarrassed that it wasn't on mine.
There was no way I was going to let this pass without having it on the list.
It's so good. It's so clever.
It had me when they showed them betting. I was like, okay, I'm really down with this movie now. What's the scene with the betting and all the stuff going on? I'm like, okay, all right. This is fun. So, all right.
Well,
for those of you watching,
I was just gonna say, and being a Buffy fan, I love seeing those people, pop, they just pop up, and it's just a good time to see them and stuff.
I think for anybody watching this show right now that has never seen that movie, as soon as this show is over, should just go out and watch it and have a good time, get some popcorn, get all your friends together, and just have a good time.
All the movies we've mentioned.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's streaming. It's not on Netflix, and I do not think it's on Prime. It may be on Hulu. I don't think it's streaming,
I know
though.
that the Roku
Shudder
channel has a ton of horror movies right now, but that's of course they've got ads every 5 seconds.
It might be on Shudder. I'm not for sure. It might be on Shudder.
I will give you guys my number 3, and then I will see if I can find out where it's streaming. Because I'll do that. It's a thing. So my number 3 is one of those movies that when I think of it, it's not horror in my head, but it is listed as a horror. But I had to put it on there because it's one of my favorite movies of all times, and it has one of my favorite actors of all times. And Shpoo and I were talking about him. We were watching a movie the other day, and he can act with just raising his eyebrow, and that is Sir Anthony Hopkins. And this is Silence of the Lambs.
Nice.
Yeah.
The man
movie,
screaming
right? This
So
movie
creepy.
Yes, it was creepy. It's not your traditional. Yes, you have the guy with the girl in the well, and everything, Wild Bill, and you have that, but it's not about that at all.
Yeah, it's not even about that at all.
That is like
He's
what
like the
you think it's
afterthought
going to
to
be
the
about.
movie.
But it's not. It's literally not about that. That is like the furthest thing from. It's like the little side plot over here, but the movie is so well done. The casting on it was brilliant.
Yeah.
The acting on it is so subtle. Every little aspect. The script was just amazing, and I can watch this movie over and over again, and I always find something new, some little nuance of the acting, and I love movies like that. I love seeing movies that I can watch more than once and catch new things every time. And this is one of those movies, and I've watched it like, I don't know, probably 100 times. And I still go, oh, that was there's this little part here, and it's just beautiful. So that's
my favorite bit of trivia about that film was that the year before, while they were making the movie, both Jodie Foster and Sir Anthony actually presented an award together at the Academy Awards.
Yes. And
then, ironically, a year later, we're back at that same exact place, both of them receiving Academy Awards for, that film. And it was just, that is one of those really amazing.
It doesn't happen. And
yes.
It's like, Sir Anthony Hopkins is by far one of those actors that if you tell me that you're not a fan of his, I will ask you why. And like most of the time when people,
I'll ask you to leave.
Most of the time people say, "Oh, I'm not a fan of theirs," and I'm like, "Okay, taste and taste." But he's one of those I will say, "Tell me why," because
explain yourself.
I will defend this man because he's brilliant.
Oh, we watched.
He is really
Fracture
good
the other day. It's where
if
you haven't seen Fracture, he's a man. He kills his wife. He admits to killing his wife, but then still gets out of it by playing like every loophole in the book.
It's a good movie.
But that's where the can like convey an entire story with literally the raise of an eyebrow. I forget what the scene was, but like somebody said something to him, and he just very subtly just kind of cocked his eyebrow. It's like God, he said so much with just that one little thing.
One eyebrow, yeah. And the thing is he does that. You got to think part of him in Silence of the Lambs, he's got that mask on, and yet you can still see everything he's supposed to convey through just this part of his face, and that is an amazing acting ability.
Well, that and not blinking.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And if you can quote this movie and people know exactly what you're talking about. Even people who don't like horror movies or thriller movies and think it's creepy, that you can still quote it and they'll be
they'll know.
Yeah. It's a beautiful movie and it's creepy. And yes, it's not quite in my head. It's not horror. In my head, it's psychological. But I put it on the list because it is listed in a horror genre. And so that's my number 3.
Take
Good
that
choice.
list.
Yeah.
Good choice. Anthony Hopkins is one of those actors whose career has changed so much over the decades. I remember him as from the movie The Bounty. And that was an amazing adaptation of that story.
Yep.
And acting opposite Mel Gibson in one of his first roles outside of Mad Max was amazing for the two of them to share the screen together. And then you look at another role that he had even a few years before that with a movie like Magic, and I can tell you've seen that.
Yep.
It's a different kind of movie.
Different kind of movie.
Uh-huh. So he can do whatever. And to me, I thought he was one of the best parts of Westworld, the Westworld series.
Yes.
So
see here. So just so everyone knows, I just Googled if you can stream Cabin in the Woods. It's on Amazon Prime. You have to rent it.
Is it?
It's $1.99.
Okay.
But it's $1.99. And then Hulu, it says it's on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, check it out.
It's worth it, even if you have to pay $1.99.
Right.
You should probably just go out. You should just go buy the Blu-ray.
Right.
Like,
So
it's that good.
Just remember, in the 90s, we would spend $5 at Blockbuster to have to return the next night by 6 o'clock.
1 to 2 days. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah, right.
Or you got charged again.
Right. Right,
And
exactly.
you got late fees. And then they wouldn't let you rent it. You had to pay those late fees.
Yeah, and then,
Exactly.
Then if your movie, if you have late fees until like you paid for the movie itself, and then they were like,
Right.
but you had to pay. Yeah.
Right. Be kind. Rewind.
Well, that's because part of that is how much those places actually paid for all those movies. And trust me,
Right.
outrageous pricing for those films.
Oh yeah, they were like
outrageous pricing.
So I
Sometimes more.
Yeah.
I had a friend who owned a movie. Actually, it was the Branson one here on Mount Branson Video, and I knew the couple who owned it because we were there all the time. And I know when they got Dirty Dancing in, they paid like $195.
Wow.
For the VHS tape of Dirty Dancing. Yes, because it was they got it before it actually came out in stores for new releases. So they paid extra to get it early, and then that's why they would charge you $4 to $5 to watch
to get it back
and make that money back. Yeah.
I used to work at a video store that we sold movies though. I worked for Suncoast in Columbia, Missouri, and we would sell films that eventually wound up at mom and pop video rental places. So as a trick, one of the guys that worked there decided to take something that we had just gotten that was not available to the public yet to be sold, and put it out there with everything else just to see people's faces when we would ring it up. Okay? So we had a copy of Pulp Fiction when it came out. And I think this movie, when it hit, was closer to like $300 or $400, give or take.
Golly.
So they stuck it in there, and ever so often you'd see somebody walk up. It's like, I'd like to, they bring you all their stuff to ring up. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is cool. I'd look at it, it's like, you sure you want this? Oh, yeah. Okay. Ring up, and the price would come up. You see their faces like, is it?
No.
Is that right?
No.
It's like, yes, it's right.
Never mind.
So,
don't want it.
Pass.
I'll just rent it.
Don't want it. Yeah. Don't want
exactly. All right, guys, let's move on. I'll hit my number 3. This is my last one, by the way, so because 1 and 2 were taken, and that is perfectly okay. So I'm going to throw in a sequel, because we've not had sequels listed in here, because typically horror sequels aren't that great. But this one takes how the first 2 movies are, completely turns it on its head, and changes it. And this is my boomstick.
Yeah.
I'm going Army of Darkness. So
nice.
Enough of the fantasy involved. Plus, yeah, you're right. Bruce Campbell is amazing. I love the fantasy aspect of this movie. So it's just crazy, quirky, funny, and it's one of my favorites.
Bruce.
That was Pillow Talk, baby.
Exactly.
He's so good. Like, Bruce Campbell is so good.
Iconic. He's iconic.
Yeah,
because he's
if chins could kill.
One. And he does it like he acts in a way that doesn't take himself so serious or his role so serious, but at the same time, he's serious about it, and it's
right.
weird.
It's amazing.
He's so good. So
I wish he would do another one. Like, I know they did the show, and I love the show. But it's like, I want him to do another one. I'm like, I just want him to keep playing Ash forever.
I want them to follow the plan that they had, which was do a sequel to Army of Darkness, do a sequel to the remake of Evil Dead, and then do one that was a crossover.
Crossover. Well, and they kept saying that the remake wasn't a remake. Like everyone's like, no, it's like in the same woods, and there's two cabins. Yeah, it's like there's two cabins, and it's like, let's do that. Bring them together. I don't care. It's like if it gets him in another movie, like let's do it.
All I know is
whatever you want.
He's
he's
going to be busy doing Briscoe Kenny Jr. the new series, so that's he's gonna be busy. So
he can make time.
Very happy about it.
He can make time.
I do want to point out I am wearing a horror genre shirt. So Stranger Things, by the way, my favorite television show right now.
That's what everybody shows their horror shirts.
Yep. Like yep. Oh.
I'm not wearing anything like that. I'm just giving a boob shot. So there you go.
We're talking horror movies. You got to have one.
So let's see.
Yep, Adam Family.
It has a little bit of everybody. It's not actually my shirt. It's my boyfriend's shirt.
It's mine, but it's too small.
Well, people were pointing out shirts, so since
when you buy a shirt for your boyfriend and it's too small, so you get to wear it.
I like that you say.
Right.
Funny how that happens.
Crazy. You like wrap it up and give it to him. You're like, whoops. I'll take it.
Hey, listen, the tag says his size on it. It's not my fault.
Whoopsie daisy.
All right. Let's move to number 2, Shpoo.
Number two.
So my number 2 is not a movie. It's a series of movies, but I'm putting the entire franchise in here with special note to the first one, and that is Saw.
Oh, those are good. Man.
I know that a lot of people don't like the Saw series. I don't care. I love them.
They're great.
Yes. I know that as they went on, some of the quality, the budgets got a little bit lower, some of the acting got a little bit worse and whatnot. And in the last movie, the blood was pink for some reason. But hey, whatever. I don't care. Just the twists and turns that those movies would take. The fact that the first movie brought up questions that would not be answered until like 6-7 movies later.
Right.
And the first one in particular, like, I'm the type of person that spoilers do not bother me at all. You could tell me word for word what an entire movie is. I'm still going to enjoy it as much as I ever would have. And Saw, the very first Saw, is the one exception to that. I did not know the ending going into it, and I'm glad that I didn't. The only thing that I knew was my friend told me, he said, the only thing I'm going to tell you about that movie is anybody who says they saw that coming is full of crap.
Oh, yeah. And hands down. Hands
the
down.
second he sits up, I'm like, whoa! So, yes.
And that movie, and it's creepy. Like, the first one, like, I mean, I'm not saying that the other ones don't have scary moments, but like the first one, I saw it in the theaters with my brother, and I remember going back to my college dorm and being terrified to open up my closet, like thinking there was going to be a pig mask and they were going to grab me. I was terrified. I didn't open up my closet for like a week. I'm like, I don't need clothes.
Like 4 jigsaws over here and a baby puppet up here.
Like, I don't need clothes. Who needs clothes?
But I'm just like, here's this murder mystery movie where, like, halfway through the movie, they tell you who the killer is. I'm like, so what's the big surprise? I'm like, we already know it's this.
Oh my gosh. And it's so, again, it's just horror movies. There's some horror movies, not all of them, obviously. But again, it's shot beautifully. It's written like where it's an intelligent movie. Like, I know they get, like you said, they get kind of crazy and off the wall, but like the first 2, in my opinion, are so cleverly written. Like, he straight up tells you, like, hey, like in the second one, he's like, hey, you just have to listen to me. Listen to me for this amount of time and your son's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. You have to keep your temper in check, follow my rules, and it's going to be fine. And it just, I love him because he tells you, he's like, you just have to follow the rules. There's a way out of it. You just got to follow the rules. And everyone's like, forget your rules, man.
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Who needs
dying
rules?
of cancer. There's nothing you can do that's going to put me in more pain than I'm already in.
Yeah, so
All
follow
I
my
need
rules.
to do is just listen
Oh,
for 1 hour,
oh.
and that's it.
And he
Follow
can't
the
do
rules,
it. It's
and
like,
that'll be safe. Yeah.
oh God, he can't do it. Those are
And
good
he
movies.
knew he couldn't do it. He played him. He played
Like a
his own
fiddle.
weaknesses against him. He plays everyone's weaknesses against him, and that's what's so beautiful about it.
Like a fiddle. Well, and I can't remember if it's like the fourth or the fifth one. I can't remember which
They
one
all
it is,
kind of run
but
together.
right where like the only way for them to actually survive was if they stayed together, and it was
That's
like
fine.
yeah, and it's like again at the beginning, it's like, hey,
Don't follow your instincts.
right,
Work
and it's like,
together.
yeah, and it's like it's all, and then they get to the end, and you're like, oh man, you wouldn't have had
Now
to cut
you're
your
through.
arm in half
Yup.
if you would have just kept everybody around.
And been fine.
Yeah, it's like, don't you feel stupid? Like, all that was for nothing.
Yes. And so I know that those movies get a bad rap, and I cannot wait for Spiral. I am so
I'm
intrigued
excited.
by the fact that Chris Rock, of all people, went to Lionsgate and was like, hey, I've got an idea that will basically reboot and revitalize, but as a sequel, and bring back the Saw franchise in a completely fresh and new way. And they were like, yes.
Okay.
Like, we've had a ton of pitches for new ideas for it, and we've hated all of them, but this is good. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it. And I'm so sad it's been pushed back a year.
I know.
It'd be out right now. We'd be watching it right now.
So many things have been pushed back. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, I would be watching it.
My number
But,
one was pushed back too.
Yeah.
We'll get
Yeah.
there.
so Brittney, what do you got as
What's
number
your
two?
last
This is my last one as well. So mine is the original Halloween. It to me is one of the best slasher movies, if you can call it a slasher movie. Only like 5 people die in it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is Halloween 2018. This picture, but which is also phenomenal. But the original Halloween 78, the score was fantastic. They shot it with like 12 people for a really long time. It was like the highest grossing independent horror movie of all time.
Until the Blair Witch Project.
Right. And it's like
Yeah.
12 people on the crew. That was it. And they shot
that
this
one
movie.
That one continuous shot around the house at the beginning, like if you ever
Right.
see a behind the scenes description of what went into that, it is
Oh my
insane.
gosh. Oh yeah. And like, you get like your first appearance of Jamie Lee Curtis, who to this day is what people like. I know her mom. We were talking about her mom is kind of like the original Scream Queen. But what most people, when they say Scream Queens, usually Jamie Lee Curtis is like the first one, and it skyrocketed her career.
Right.
And I don't know, like, and it's not filmed like a normal horror movie's filmed. And there's not a lot of blood. Like, I love blood in my horror films. So it's kind of surprising that I love Halloween so much. But there's not a lot of blood in it. There's not a lot of crazy gore. And like the first time they saw the cut, it was not scary. And John Carpenter came in, redid the score. And again, to this day, one of the best horror scores known to man. And he came in and redid the score. And like the last 25 minutes of that movie where she's in that house with those kids, like, terrifying. Him coming through the closet where she's just sitting in there, and him coming through the wood slats. Oh my gosh. And then the best, like, most iconic picture in my mind from that movie is her sitting by the couch, and you just in the background whoop, and just see him and turn his head. Like, you're just like, oh my God, run. Like, get out of the house. What are you doing?
It blows my mind it blows my mind that here's this guy. He was just a friend of John Carpenter's, and they're like, "Hey, you got a good size and shape, whatever. We're gonna put you in this costume. You're gonna be this killer guy." Blah 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 blah. And so, like, here is this dude that creates one of the most iconic movements of a character in horror that even like Jason would go on to start mimicking what Michael Myers was doing. And then this guy goes on to do The Last Starfighter, Major Payne, Dennis the Menace. He wrote.
Well, no, he didn't just do them. He was the guy behind The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was his movie.
And I know his name is Michael.
Directed those movies.
Like his name is Michael Myers, right? Everybody knows that. But like, they call him the Shape. Like that was it. Like he wasn't supposed to be like. But he was so good, and in the 2018, they used him for a lot of the walking, and because his movement, like people just can't copy it. Yeah, like they try, and it just doesn't feel right. And then when you see the 2018 movie, like you're just like, oh my god! I know a lot of people didn't like it. I loved it. I loved that they did PTSD. And it was 3 generations of like, this is what this would do.
My number one is Halloween also, but mine was going to be a combo of 78 and 2018.
In 2018. It's just, and like seeing Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't know, like seeing her again as Laurie, but it's like the real, I mean, I know she's in other ones, but to me, like this is what Laurie would be like.
It's Laurie's continued story. It's like what her should have been. Yeah.
And right. And it's like
my favorite part about
this crazy kook.
My favorite part of 2018 was like, so John Carpenter, he didn't want to do a sequel. And so he wrote basically the first draft of the script for part 2. Because they were like throwing money at him, and he's like, fine, whatever. So when part 3 comes along, he's like, I'll do it, but I'm doing my own thing. And then of course we get Season of the Witch, which is right there. And of course that's like, the redheaded stepchild of the Halloween series. But
however, it's a cult classic now.
Yes. And great in its own merits if you disassociate it from the Halloween series. So then along comes 2018, and they pitch to John Carpenter what they want to do. And for the first time in 40 years, John Carpenter is like, I'm on board.
Yep.
And the score that he wrote for that movie.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It was John Carpenter and his son, and I think one of his other kids, I believe. But it's just subtle changes to the
beautiful.
Old score, and like that main theme they did for it, it's the first time that the main Halloween theme was not used as the main theme for the movie. But I think it's called like Michael Myers Reborn or Resurrected or something along those lines. But that score, breathtaking. Beautiful.
Right. My favorite, I have the soundtrack, but like my favorite is Through the Woods. Like if you go to YouTube and you do the soundtrack for 2018 or the score for 2018 and you do Through the Woods, and it's that slow, like this haunting piano playing, and you think it's going to turn into the original theme, and it doesn't. And it's when Allison's like running through the woods, and it's this like beautiful, like haunting piano. And it's just, I don't know. It's amazing, but I don't know. To me, it's beautiful. But you talk about Season of the Witch. In the guest, they have the witch, the pumpkin, and the skeleton up as like a homage to Season of the Witch. Nice. And then in 2018,
I've got those 3 sitting right here with the silver Shamrock TV.
Right. And then in 2018, you see them running across screen like as little kids. And that's something that I love about horror movies, is I love it that people like recognize like, hey, there's people that came before us that like laid all this groundwork, and like we don't like
Easter egg,
right. And I like, there's a lot of horror remakes that I like, and I love that 2018 is not a remake. Like I love it that it's taking these characters.
It sucks that we lose all of the other movies except for the original.
It does.
Especially like I know that H2O only counted the first two, which I love part 2 myself. But,
I do too. I really like Halloween 2. Except for the sister thing. I like in 2018 that they like, hey, isn't that her brother? And it's like, no. Like they just made that up. It's like they did. They did. And I've read a lot
of the spoiler reviews from the test screenings that they did for Halloween Kills. And
that got pushed too.
I cannot wait. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Some of the surprises that we get in this new movie, like
I do want to say I'm pretty bummed that Danielle Harris was not in 2018 because she was in the original Halloween films and then she was in Rob Zombie's films and she still looked like a teenager. So that was like my only thing that kind of bummed me out. I was like, man, could you not have just thrown her in there somewhere?
Just have her instead of Judy Greer. That would have been great.
Like, I don't know. Which I love Judy Greer. I thought she did a fantastic job. Like when I just watched 2018 again today. Because I'm obsessive.
Well, we just did 2 hours.
Sorry. But when
it's okay.
But when Judy, Karen is standing there and she's like screaming like, Mom, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And she's just crying. And then you just see him pop in a frame and she's like, gotcha. Boom. And like, you're just like, holy crap. This is a trap. Like, this isn't a prison. It's a trap. I'm like, this is phenomenal. Beautiful. We could talk 2 hours just about Halloween 2018 and Halloween.
We need to do this horror show that they were suggesting earlier. I'm down.
Just saying.
Right?
Just saying.
Right? Yes. Okay, Keith, do you have any more on your list?
Actually, I still have 2 more.
All right.
I got it. I'm out.
I'm sorry. He asked me for 5. I came up with 5, and
Well, because we're still on number 2, but she did my number 1, so that was my number 1. So that's why I'm out. So yeah.
Okay, so it's just me and you.
So there's 3 of us out.
We're out. All right.
Well, okay. My number 2 is a film that I just loved this movie from the first moment that I saw it at the movie theater. I don't know what it was about this movie. It had a lot of elements in it. And I like the fact that if you were a fan of the original novel, it means so much to see this version of the movie because Hollywood never really bothered trying to adapt the actual novel for years, to the point where there was always one character that was always missing from every Hollywood version of this film. And my number 2 is Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yep. I just thought with James B. Hart, the guy who wrote the script for Hook, writing the big coverage,
so good.
The beginning and the ending. Outside of that whole thing about being the warrior and his lost love, if you cut those out, what you have in this movie is a literal film translation of what the novel is.
Yes.
Everything that's in the novel is in the movie.
I also saw this movie way too young. I could be why.
Bad thing to say about that
could be why I'm obsessed with the vampires, though.
Accent, but that's it.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
And you know what? That's fine. That is a fair thing. I just like the fact that you had a filmmaker, first of all, treat this book with the kind of care that it should have always have been given. There should have never been characters cut out of this book from every different Hollywood version because you're missing the subtleties of what the book had in it.
Yeah,
and Gary is fantastic in this movie.
Is amazing.
Gary Oldman's one of my
He's
favorite
so
actors.
good.
Yeah,
everybody forgets he's Dracula. Come on.
Well, and I don't think he was the original choice for the role. He was up against someone else who almost got it, but Gary won it out in the end. And he is so good. All of his stuff is just so good. And for me, my favorite line in the movie is a line towards the end of the film where he's in his bat form. And do you actually have you actually heard the story of what actually sold Gary Oldman on the movie?
No, I don't think so.
It was actually one line from the movie, one line from the script that he read after he read the entire script, and he said that one line was what really caused him to say yes and decide to do the film. And it was his line to Mina, "I have crossed oceans of time for you." And it was just, that did it. You know,
doesn't everybody want to hear that?
Every girl wants to hear that. Yes.
I mean,
you know, I killed your best friend,
too hard?
Baby, I love you.
Is it too hard?
Me and your best friend, you know, we kind of did it, but I love you.
Sorry. He's like, it was different.
The thing is it flips romance and possession and obsession and horror on its end. The book does that. And so when this came out, and I'm a huge book fan, I'm a huge book nerd, everybody knows that. When this movie came out, I had just read the book. My mom was like, you need to read this book. So I read the book. And I read it in Frankenstein by Mary Shelley in the same week. And I read this book,
also
and
good.
This movie came out. And when it came out, I was like, I'd seen Dracula's in, you know, like,
they're never the same.
Movies. Yeah, they were, but it wasn't Dracula. It was just a vampire that they would call Dracula. You know, this was the story of
you have book Dracula, and you've got like Universal Monsters Dracula.
Monsters.
Yes.
And then everything in between.
People think they're the same thing, but they're not. There's vampires, and they put the name Dracula on there just because it was a famous vampire. And then they have Bram Stoker's Dracula, who has his own story and its own unique tale, and I agree with you on this. I think that it's not on my list, but it was actually on my extended list just because it's such a beautiful story, and I love that book so much. And the adaptation, a lot of the times when they do those, they lose stuff, and I know you have to lose certain things just because time constraints and budget constraints and stuff, but this one held so true to the story that even the things they lost, I didn't mind as much. So I actually like your number 2 pick there.
See, and that's why.
Well, it's also an Academy Award winning film. It won 3 Academy Awards for the 3 big things that everybody takes out of the movie. It won for best makeup, won for costume, and I think it won for cinematography. I think, and it's just beautiful. The movie is, I mean, when you get it in 4K, and you just look at this and you listen. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't cinematography. It was sound. That's it. Sound, costume, makeup. This movie is one of the most gorgeous films ever made. And what they went through to make it was so amazing.
Well, the costumes alone, the thing is, and you know, I'm a costume person. Everybody knows that. The thing is, it's like too many times they go and they try to modernize the costumes. Like they have, and I love historical fiction and movies that are based on historical fiction, but like they wouldn't have had like their bosoms showing in like all these places and stuff.
Right.
They just wouldn't have. Like some of the things that they choose for costumes are just not right.
It was scandalous to show off your wrist at the time.
Yeah.
This one was so
like you wouldn't do that,
but yet so beautiful, and the materials they used translated so well. They put the colors of the velvets to play against each other. So, no, it's beautiful. And there's a part in the movie where she's walking away and you can hear the crushed velvet move in her dress.
Mm-hmm.
And people, and I remember seeing the movie and somebody was like, oh, they should have like taken that out. And I'm like, no, that's part
That's
of
what you would hear. Like you would hear that if you were there on the street, you would have heard that like all the time.
It's the Gone with the Wind thing. When she walks into the prison in the crushed velvet draped dress, you hear that. And it's the same thing. It's that like, it's a texture that you hear. And I know a lot of people don't get that, but those things are important when you're telling a story. It's these little nuances. See,
I love
the movie.
I just love the whole thing with Dracula. I mean, Vlad's shadow in the castle. I love how they filmed all that, and it was just
good.
This is not a movie. This is a movie that was done before CGI, before a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of old-fashioned film tricks were used for this movie, and it just works. It just. I watch it every year for Halloween. This is my traditional Halloween movie. That film.
Good one.
So
it holds still today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was so well made that like you watch it and you're like, this would do well in theaters now.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it was a play. That was the great thing about this movie. He treated it like a play. He had all of the actors run through and do the entire thing. And the only thing they had was the book. Yep. He gave them all a copy of the actual book, Dracula. And then he had all of the actors run through, and he ran kind of like an acting camp where everybody got into character, and they would perform the entire story from beginning to end. So that by the time they started filming, you knew your character backwards and forwards. And of course, at the center of all this, again, Sir Anthony Hopkins. You gotta give it up to him. Come on.
It's like, but I mean, like, how tedious was that? Probably, like, as an actor, like, I would be like, guys, again, like, can we just go ahead and roll, and like, maybe we're gonna get something that we're not gonna have to do again, like, maybe.
But the end result, though.
Oh, it's perfection.
Perfection.
That's why I'm not an actor. Like, because I couldn't do it that many times. Yeah.
No, I love that pick, Keith.
I agree. That's a great pick, Keith. I really enjoyed that movie. That's a great movie. I actually enjoyed the movie more than the book. The book just bored me to tears about the last. When it hits about halfway through, where they keep reviving her over and over and over again, I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so done. Don't stop. Let her die. Just let her die. I don't care anymore.
Just let her die in peace, guys. Come on.
So I was like, oh my gosh.
I have to at least say one thing. You know, as one of those geeky, nerdy dads, when you're raising kids around this stuff, it is so. It's good to see when your kids kind of loosely pick up some of this stuff.
Right.
And my daughter decided to, my daughter and I had our own thing where we would watch Penny Dreadful together. And because of that, she started reading halfway through all of the classic horror books. Mm-hmm. And she read Dracula, and she understood. She got it. She understood immediately once she completed reading that book exactly what the allure of the character was. Yes. And understood how Hollywood had been messing it up and what her dad had been saying all this time. And it's like, oh yeah, So
Hollywood does that though. They tend to do that.
Yeah.
Mess stuff up.
Not taking away from the classics that did it and the people that did it. It's just that it wasn't Dracula. It was a vampire. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was like they could.
It wasn't Bram Stoker's Dracula. It was Bram Stoker's bastardization.
Yeah.
It was Nosferatu with a little bit of a spin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So my number two is going really old school, and I don't know. I hope you've all seen this. And it's 1935, and it's Freaks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
First of all, the cast
We accept her one of us. We accept her one of us.
You went like way back.
Well, I love classic movies, so
that's awesome.
My thing.
This that's one of those movies. If you've never seen it, you need to.
You do, because it's not only really creepy, and it's like not only
Straight
like
up
mind-blowingly messed up, but it's done in a way. First of all, the cast, they didn't just use like actors playing sideshow freaks. They used the sideshow freaks were cast, and they were the actors.
And that's just creepy on its own.
Right.
Like,
second of all, it
you can
humanized them. What?
You can watch this movie is available in full on YouTube, by the way. You can watch it on YouTube.
So, what's great about it is up until this point, the circus freaks had been like, you know, they were less than human, basically, even in society and stuff. This movie didn't change that completely, but it did show that they were human, but they could also be revengeful, and they could think elaborate plans. Like, people always thought they were stupid, and I know that sounds bad, but that's just kind of what society was. This movie made you feel compassion for them, but at the same time, it still terrorized people, because what they do to this girl and Hercules, the strong man, you know, her name's Cleopatra. He's Hercules. If you don't know the story, she is a trapeze artist in the circus. One of the midgets in the sideshow. He's going to inherit a lot of money, and so she like seduces him to marry him so she can kill him. And then his friends in the freaks figure this out, and they torture basically in all kinds of ways Cleopatra and Hercules. This movie, when they made it, was 90 minutes long.
Wow.
They tested it, and it was so gruesome and so grotesque that they cut it down to 64 minutes. Because the test audience...
And look up what was cut, because the stories, and I think even some snippets of footage are out there, or pictures anyway.
Of things that were cut. But
God.
It's that gruesome. But this film is just...
Even for today's standards, it's bad.
It's such a composite of America at that point, but it's also a composite of America today. And it's just this beautiful, scary, messed up tale, but it's amazing. And if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it for a long time, go watch it.
Rewatch it.
It's really, really well done. And for the time,
when we were talking about it earlier, I said that this is a movie that could never be made today, but it should be.
Yeah.
I would.
They'd cut it way down. They would Hollywood it up. You know what I mean?
It would have to be like a major, massively independent film. But if somebody out there could put that together, non-Hollywood style, it could be the greatest thing ever.
Do we get boobs in it?
Boobs and weed.
Sorry, I had to cut the tension.
Had to cut the tension.
You're getting too serious.
Where was I gonna go? Just to, like, basically, there's very few actors in this movie, and like Henry Victor and Hyams and Elga. I can't ever say her last name, but she plays Cleopatra.
Olga, Russian name.
Yeah, it's a Russian name. But all of the freaks that you see in this movie are people that would never have been cast in a movie except for this kind of movie, without making fun of them. And they're brilliantly acted.
One of the little people in it was notoriously in Wizard of Oz, but I think that's the only one, if I'm not mistaken.
And he's the main one. He's Hans. He's the one she marries. But yeah, but it's just really, really mind blowing in what they do and all of that. And so yeah, if you want to see a good, scary, mind blowing horror film from the 30s, this is
disturbing.
Top of the list.
Overall,
top of the list.
It's the top of the list. So yeah, Keith.
All right, tonight.
What's your number one, Keith?
Wow. My number one is the original film that really scared me silly and made me so paranoid I couldn't eat anything unless it was out of a can for almost a week.
This Life.
What?
Oh. Are you going to say that? Is it The Stuff?
No.
Tell me it's
No. No, it's not The Stuff.
I love The Stuff.
No.
It's the 1982 attempt to remake classic movie that actually just took on a life of its own. John Carpenter's The Thing.
That's it.
We were talking about that last week.
This one came extremely close to making my list.
It was.
It's so good.
Let me just say this. Given what everybody has been talking about, especially what we've been talking about for the last seemingly 15 minutes, one of the things that Hollywood doesn't seem to understand, and that fans really need to understand, is that when you are talking horror, when you are talking fantasy, and especially science fiction, all of those genres are all originally literary based.
Yes.
Right.
So the best stuff, the stuff that is the heart of what it is, you're actually going to have to read in order to get it. Okay? And the situation with this particular movie, which I always thought was one of the weird twists, is while it is my number one horror film, it's based on a 1938 book from one of the not grandmasters, but one of the masters of science fiction, John W. Campbell, who, if you do not know this name, you should, because he is one of the fathers of what we call space opera. Okay? Space opera is basically taking a story and making it a grand story over sometimes either many generations, over distance. So a film like Star Wars would never exist without someone like John W. Campbell and the kind of writing that he did. Okay? This story was one of his stories. And for a science fiction guy, who I think he passed away in 1971, to basically create one of my favorite horror films of all time, that's an amazing accomplishment in and of itself. I still think people need to understand who Mr. Campbell was, and you need to read some of his stuff. Hollywood could use some of what he wrote. If you're looking for something to base movies out of and to create something original yet expansive, you know.
They don't want to do original stuff, Keith. Come on. Come on.
You're right.
Come on.
It's watered down, wash, rinse, repeat.
Well, and it's
pretty
like
much
the thing, like the practical effects. Like that's another thing that they don't get is they want to CG everything, and it's like, I know it takes more time and it doesn't always work, so you got to redo it. But it's like the practical effects look so much better.
Yeah, look up the prequel thing that came out in 2011. Yeah. Look up the practical effects that they had done for that.
Mm-hmm. And they CG'd over it.
They went over everything in CG and made it look terrible. The practical effects for that were amazing. Some of the best stuff we have seen since The Thing.
Well,
this is what I was talking about before we started the show. You know, Hollywood needs to understand that you can get a lot out of scaling back the amount of money that you spend, because a lot of your money goes out the window when you're doing a lot of CGI and other post effects. Although I say this to a lot of filmmakers going through the independent route outside of the studios. A lot of the technology that was developed to make a lot of the biggest films of the last 30 years has come down in price so much. You can literally remake Terminator 2 for about half of what it took to actually film the original one. All you would really need are the stunt people and the permits, because almost everything else is so cheap now. The effects used to create the Liquid Terminator are now pretty much anybody can get their hands on that stuff.
You could probably do it.
So really, it comes down to what. That's right. So it comes down to what both George Lucas and James Cameron were telling everyone back in the 90s, which is the future of filmmaking really isn't going to be about what we can dream up as far as visual effects. The future of filmmaking is whatever original idea that you have.
But they don't want original ideas.
Yeah.
That's right.
They don't. They don't. I mean, they don't. That's why you said the remake. The Thing has been remade, like, you know what I mean? The Thing that everybody knows and loves isn't even the original. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what everybody says. Like, oh yeah, the original, The Thing, and I'm like, that's not the original.
The one from the
it's not. But it's about brand recognition.
Oh yeah, it's so much better. But I mean, that's why it's hard to get anything made, because it's why take an original horror script idea and make it
just remake something that you know is already going to make money,
right? Or make a sequel, because like, I mean, with Spiral,
wanted to go to the theater to think. They wanted to go and turn their brain off and get some pretty light flash at them for 2 hours.
And it's you've already got this giant group of people that love it. Like that, which I love the Halloween 2018. We've already discussed it, but it's like, it's kind of a safe bet.
Oh no,
people are gonna go. People are gonna go see it. It's a safe bet. Mm-hmm. It just happened to be a really good movie.
The dumbest movie ever. It will fill every seat in the theater, and everybody will hate it. And then a year later, make another one. And it will still fill every seat based simply on the fact that it's another of this thing that we once used to love.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and again, I am part. I'd like to think I'm part of that group of people that think it would probably be better to take something that it was a complete and utter failure the first time around and remake that those. If you're willing to. Right.
Make it
like better. Shocker did not do so well the first time around. I think with today's visual effects, and if you're willing to put, some time and effort into the story a little bit, you could make something like a Shocker remake revival type film that would just absolutely kill. So,
I agree though. Like stop remaking like really good movies that everyone loves. Take crap movies that had a really good story or a really good idea, and it just didn't do well. Like, redo those.
Or something based off a book that you're like, boy, that was a horrible telling of that story.
Well, there's so many books that are out there.
Like Planet of the Apes.
There are so many books out there that have never been made into movies that should be made into movies. So, like, pick something like that has.
Give us the rest of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series.
Yes.
Yeah.
They won't though.
Right?
I know.
We're all frustrated.
And then it was fantastic.
So my number one pick is actually also based on a book, and it is a Stephen King book, and it's 2 movies, but I had to put them together. And I love this book.
And it's also a remake.
It is a remake. It was a TV movie before, so
to be fair, it's a reimagining, not a remake.
I have both. But it's chapter 1 and chapter 2.
Nice.
These movies, they cut some things out of from the book. I know why they cut them out of the book, because they're not necessarily appropriate, and the book has some scenes in there that.
If you're referring to the child orgy, it should have been in there.
Yes. But
it was an important part of that book, and I will argue that to my time.
Shpoo is now on a list.
It is.
That's
that being said, you read the book, you watch the movies, these 2 movies,
you don't have to do it on screen. You just imply that it happened off screen.
They did apply. But it's so good, and the casting on this was so beautiful. I love their casting from chapter 1 to chapter 2. I think they cast. There's very few people that I think that got even close to wrong. Bill Hader was
So
amazing
good.
and stole the show to the point of no return in chapter 2. And I was actually kind of shocked by that because he's not, when they said the cast, he wasn't the one that he was the one I was like,
and he's so good.
He's so good.
He stole the show.
He did.
The first one scared me way more than the second one did. Like, because I didn't watch the original because Killer Clowns, when I was 5, made me afraid of clowns. So I never watched the TV. Yeah, I never watched the Tim Curry one. And then I didn't know anything about it. Hadn't read the books, didn't know anything about it. And I saw the first It in the theaters. And like in the first 10 minutes, I was like, I'm ready to leave.
Yeah. It's
I'm ready to leave.
Stephen King, you can't have, I didn't have any of his on my list. You can't have a horror list without a Stephen King, in my opinion. My mom was a huge Stephen King fan. My house was full of Stephen King books to the point we would walk down the hallway and there'd be Stephen King books all lining the hallway.
That's awesome.
My house now, if you walk
they stacked
down my
himself.
My house now, if you walk down the hallway, you have giant It posters, and
we have an It hallway.
We have a dark hallway that's just It posters. But I love these movies, and my son loves them. And Shpoo loves them, so it's kind of a family thing. It's so good, and they're so true to the characters. Yeah, they change things, but the characters are really true to what they are in the book. In the older movie, they changed some of the characters up just to fit them more into the into that TV miniseries, what's okay to see on TV kind of thing.
Right.
The blood scene in chapter 2 with Bev in the bathroom, that scene, so much blood, so much blood. I'm like, it's just everywhere. But it's really good if you guys, and I think most people have seen it, and I was trying to put ones that not everyone had seen, or that sort of thing on my list. But Shpoo and I were talking about it, and this one had to be on my number 1. It was gonna make his list, except I said no, it's my number 1.
Much like Larry with Nightmare on Elm Street, I was like, if you're not using it, I am.
Well, and like especially with the first chapter, like if you took all of the like it was so well acted, like if you took all of those horror elements out, it would have just been a solid movie about a group of kids.
Yes,
like that were friends. Yeah, like it was like, I don't know, kid actors impress me in general. Like they're just impressive. But like when I watched that movie, I was like, this is insane that they have the acting chops to pull off anything that they're doing in this movie. Like I don't, most adults can't.
Because all of those kids became such good friends offset.
Yeah.
So the chemistry was just through the roof.
Well, and just like that kitchen scene when he comes out of the fridge freaked me out. Like I was like, nope, wouldn't do it. Like, nope. I don't know how any of these kids did it.
Stephen King
and that was the first time they actually saw him in the makeup too.
Yes.
Skarsgård's great.
Kept him away until they started filming with him, and that was the first scene that they shot with him coming in.
Well, and he wasn't even scared of him. Like that's like I would have been terrified. Like I'm like rethinking it.
He was like, here he's like got it cranked up to 11, and Eddie's going crazy or whatever, and he's like, as soon as they yelled cut, I just wanted to go over and apologize. So I walked over to him, and he was just like, "Hey, that was a great take. You were great, phenomenal." Just like he was the most professional actor I've ever met.
So professional. And I saw an interview with him talking about that, and he was like, "I thought I scarred him. Like he's like, I've just scarred this kid for life." Like, because he was so believable, like screaming and freaking out. And then it's like, hey, man, like, great job. Let's go for take 2. How about it? How you feeling?
The cast is so great. The kids are really great. I've been following all their careers, you know, and everything. But it's just such a great story. Stephen King is the master of horror in our generation, beyond anybody. No one can ever say that. I know there's Dean Koontz and everything, but if you say horror books, Stephen King is one of the first ones that pop into your head.
And a couple of months ago, there was a but a couple of months ago there was a website that was teasing a big announcement from Stephen King, and then they were like, we have what the news is going to be. We just have to wait for the official word before we can drop the info. And then it was like, well, the time that we were supposed to wait till has passed, but he has not put it out there, so. Since the time has passed that we were given, we're going to go ahead and drop it. But it was that Stephen King is in the process of writing a sequel to it, which hoping that is true.
So nothing's confirmed. It's just this person who talked to him, and he had said that in passing at a place that he was being interviewed and that sort of thing. So it's not confirmed. He has said that Pennywise is one of it freaks him out more than any other character he's ever written. And
he's dropped plenty of hints in other books.
Yeah. Pennywise shows up in almost in a lot of his books. It shows up in The Stand. It shows up in Needful Things. Even to the point that he wrote a book for his daughter called The Eyes of the Dragon, and flags in it, and there's a clown reference in that, and it's from medieval times. So Pennywise is that character that Stephen King keeps coming back to,
that he can't get rid of.
Can't get rid of in his head. So that would be really good. I would love it if he would do a sequel or write the screenplay for a sequel if they're going to do another movie or whatever, and be involved in it in some way. It would be beautiful.
Well, in the book, there's sequel material in the book for sure. But
it'd be great if they wrote it as a crossover sequel for both it and Salem's Lot.
Yes.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Or Pennywise and Flag.
Well, and those are his two big ones. Those are Flag and Pennywise are his basically keep coming back to them. Eyes of the Dragon, Flag is the bad guy. Needful Things, Flag.
But
so those two, they've got to be from the same universe. They've got to be from that same.
Oh yeah, they are. They're
That'd be
both
awesome.
from the Macroverse. But which goes into all that in the Dark Tower series. But in the book, if you've read the book, the one thing that they left out of both adaptations is that when they are fighting the spider version of Pennywise, they find eggs everywhere. Like it has laid eggs everywhere. And Ben is stomping out the eggs while everyone else is fighting against the spider. And there's a line in there. It specifically goes into Ben thinking about how many eggs does a spider lay. Seems like I remember reading that they can lay thousands of eggs. And then later when he comes back, he says, I think I got them all. I must have squashed at least 100. So the idea that some of those eggs, potentially multiple eggs, survived.
And that's in the book.
There's your sequel.
That's book canon. So they could use that to make movies.
Yeah,
and
I'm telling you, if they cross that over with Salem's Lot, you have a winner. You have a winner.
I'm down.
I mean,
I'd be fine.
All right, guys. We are almost at 2 hours and 40 minutes
3
in.
hours.
I know, almost 3 hours.
We're getting close. And
we're going to do top 3
at some point.
Oh.
Well, yeah. I knew that this one was going to be a long one. So anyway, those are it's okay. It's all good. The guys over the Nerd Informants will be glad to know we broke their record of being our longest show now.
But there's one more of us tonight, so
there is. That's true. That is true.
Okay,
so
we're gonna give some shout outs to some of our friends. We're gonna start with the Nerd Informants. Come on the show. Whoop. Sorry, my phone just went like this. But that's the Nerd Informants over at YouTube and Facebook. I think they're on Twitter as well. That's Josh and Tim. They're amazing. They're fun, and they're going to give you all kinds of information, nerdy, and they say the weirdest things, the funniest things, and They do. But go check them out. Go be sure when you check our friends out on YouTube and Facebook to give likes, hit that subscribe button. Let them know that you are watching and that you like what they're doing. That helps us out so much to know that what we're doing is actually getting heard. So be sure to do that. And then, of course, we have, who are we going to do next? I'm waiting for the little thing to pop up.
Let's
Keith and Gary over at Popculture Minefield. And Brittney, you're on there too sometimes, right?
I am on there sometimes. I don't have a good studio space, as you can see.
It looks great to me.
As you can see.
Look. If you have any positive vibes and cool thoughts, prayers, whatever, send them Gary's way. He's feeling a little under the weather.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I think he will recover. In my limited medical knowledge, I think he will recover. He would want me to tell you, check out what we're doing right now. We're in the middle of our countdown of our favorite, biggest films of the 80s. And we've already done 1980, and our last one was 1983. So our next one will be 1984, and we'll break down all of the films that we like, kind of like what we were doing here, but we go into depth, weird trivia, how much the film was made, what the production cost was versus how much it made, all that stuff. We do it all.
Yeah,
we love doing
more information than we do. We just tell you what we like.
I just say I like it.
Keith, you guys were focusing on sci-fi. Is that what it still is? Is the best sci-fi?
Yeah, of the 80s.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi. So you're not going into terms of endearment. You're looking at sci-fi.
Yeah, no. And not this lifetime. No.
All right, exactly. I wanted to set that for people to know kind of what they were going to get, and always make sure when you guys go check, they do have a warning that you need to be 13, and you probably need to make sure you're 13 or older, because Keith's not usually so much so, but Gary's
it's a little
rough at times. Yeah, exactly.
But be sure to go give them a like on Facebook and YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, comment, let them know what you think of their shows. That's how we know we're doing what you like. Also, go check out Brittney. Brittney, where can we find anything about you other than
anything about me? I mean,
your movies are on YouTube.
Just on Facebook. The web series stuff is on YouTube. Okay. And then we just have like pitch packages and stuff like that for Happy Halloween right now. We didn't want to create a Facebook page for it. Just because I mean, it's just like if it gets funding from like bigger funding, lots of things can change. So we didn't do like a Facebook page for it. Sure. But if you just follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, I'm always sharing links. But the web series stuff is all on YouTube.
Okay. Writer, director, actress, innovator. She's Brittney Greer. She does it all, kids. And she's a great artist, too.
And Professor's going to have all those links for us on our page so that they can check out the web series and everything.
Hey, Brittney, is it okay if I post the trailer for Happy Halloween on GeekyKOOL?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's one of those rich people that wants to sponsor it'll be there. So yeah. All right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. And our other friend we'd like to thank for being on the show tonight as well is Shpoo. That is at Skallywag Productions. We've got some things going on that we're working on now. So
and a bit of unfortunate news, that being that here in recent weeks I've actually shot several videos. Our computer that all of our editing equipment is unfortunately now used. So until we can get that straightened out, then everything is kind of on hold, unfortunately. Having said that, Mindless Drivel will be returning, and as well as do you want to go ahead and do this?
Yeah, we can do this. We can announce this.
We are going to be launching a new series that is AJ and I on the series. We're going to be talking about unsolved crimes, cryptids, conspiracy theories, anything that is unsolved. And it's going to be titled "A Series of Enigmatic Events."
Yep.
Nice.
So look for that coming soon. We are going to be talking about.
What are you doing this?
I don't know.
Maybe you can figure out what happened to that bike that I should have got when I was 7. That's a mystery.
I was teased by saying that the first episode was going to be about a very popular unsolved mystery from the past. And
My
then
bike.
we saw another one that was very similar, and we're like, I wonder if these two could be connected. And we uncovered something that, oh my God, Pandora's box went insane. And I mean, maybe we need to pull out the tinfoil hats. I'm not sure. Or maybe we just like solved some kind of giant conspiracy theory that's been going on since at least the 70s. I'm not sure.
If we get arrested by the CIA, you guys know.
During our research, we accidentally ended up on the CIA's website.
I did on my phone. So just
no joke.
Hold on, whoa, stranger danger, stranger danger. Who are you people? Who are you people?
CIA website, NASA website, FBI website, and KGB website.
And KGB. Well, now you're going to get arrested.
Whoopsie daisy.
So, you guys, be sure to check out Shpoo at Skallywag Productions on YouTube. He's got that coming up. He's got his Mindless Dribble coming up. He's also on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to give him a like and a subscribe.
Twitter. You can see Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can see the collectible of the day.
Nice.
I do one every night. I'll actually be doing that like as soon as I jump off of here, posting that for the night. Yeah, pretty much that's about all that's going on right now.
And then be sure to check us out at GeekyKOOL.com. We have our website, we have our Facebook page, our Twitter, and the live stream. So we're on YouTube as well. Be sure to give us a like and go subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. We have professors always writing things. Unfortunately, I don't write as much as I used to, and I'm sorry about that, Professor. Don't be mad at me. But he writes things all the time, and if you're interested in writing for us or contributing, let us know. We're always looking for people to write for us, or do videos like this.
And we do have a new writer getting started, so
we do have
very excited. Yeah.
We have a new
and
writer.
Once again, that is www.GeekyKOOL.com. It's your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
All right. Well, I would say that's all the time we have, but that's been all the time we have for the whole month.
That's all the time we have for the next several weeks. So
yeah.
Bye, guys.
So see you guys later. Stay geeky, and thank you for tuning in. And give a like to all these guys.